The scene opens at a massive school campus where the competitive vibes are already off the charts. Inside the gym, the sound of squeaking sneakers fills the air as the badminton club goes hard during a sweatfest of a practice session. The shuttlecock soars across the court while the players literally swear on their lives to bring home the championship trophy. Our main character, Gu'an, delivers a clean thwack to the shuttlecock, looking like she's got some serious skills. Despite her talent, she looks completely detached, moving through the motions while others give their absolute all to reach their goals. Across the net, her opponent is drenched in sweat, clearly desperate for the admiration of the crowd. Gu'an watches the girl's intense form, feeling like they're living in two different worlds. Her gaze is sharp, but there's no passion behind those eyes as she effortlessly keeps up the pace. Finally, the referee calls it, announcing that the practice match is officially over. As the adrenaline fades, Gu'an reflects on how some people are just filter feeders, surviving on the bare minimum of effort while others burn themselves out. In the locker room, the girls start changing out of their gear, the atmosphere shifting from intense to casual. Yet when a teammate praises her performance, Gu'an just shrugs it off, claiming it was nothing special. Internally, she scoffed. Is playing with someone this week even worth my time? Her friend isn't having it, pointing out that Gu'an has the best foundational skills in the entire year and should definitely join the official team. Gu'an doesn't even hesitate, giving a flat-out refusal because she has zero interest in the commitment. She pops in an earbud to drown out the noise, effectively ghosting the conversation. Looking at her phone, she admits to herself that she doesn't have a deep love for the sport and considers her talent totally insignificant. She's perfectly fine with letting that talent go to waste while she stays in her own bubble. Walking through a sun-drenched wooded path, she continues her internal monologue about how being uninterested in one thing doesn't mean she's interested in anything else. She spots two girls up ahead having a minor meltdown over tickets to a JJ concert. One girl is devastated because she's stuck on club duty and can't find anyone to cover her shift. They notice Gu'an approaching and immediately lock onto their target. The girl is visibly shocked to see Gu'an out and about. Gu'an stands there awkwardly with her hands in her hoodie, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. She tries to play it cool, claiming she's just taking a random walk. Sensing an opportunity, the girl hides a ticket behind her back and asks if Gu'an is busy this afternoon. She flashes a sweet, manipulative smile that basically screams, "I'm about to ruin your day." Fast forward to sunset, and Gu'an finds herself in front of a secluded school building. She trudges up the stairs, regretting her life choices. She figures that blindly following the crowd is still better than the stress of actually chasing a dream. She reaches a door and lets out a resigned sigh before heading inside. The room is a total disaster zone, filled with dusty boxes and abandoned furniture. She spots her reflection in a bucket of water, looking like she's about to start her villain arc. She rolls up her sleeves and starts the grueling task of cleaning the place up. After lining up a few mugs, she's already feeling the exhaustion. She wipes the sweat from her forehead, wondering how she got roped into this. Eventually, the room looks somewhat decent, and she decides it's good enough for now. As she heads toward a door labeled "Storage" to finish the last of her chores. The storage room is dark and incredibly dusty, making her cough the second she steps inside. While rummaging through the junk, she finds an old video camera and notices something weird. The red light is blinking, meaning the device is still recording after all this time. She walks toward a patch of sunlight, curious about what's on the screen. As she lifts the camera to her eye, her heart skips a beat. Her pupils dilate in pure shock as she looks through the viewfinder. She sees a window with curtains fluttering and a breeze that she definitely doesn't feel. Sitting on a table is a girl in a blue school blazer, looking like she stepped out of a movie. The girl has long, flowing blonde hair that glows in the sunset. Gu'an keeps the camera steady, mesmerized by the sight. Through the lens, the girl looks like a total idol, smiling brightly as if she's posing for a shoot. Gu'an pulls the camera away, but the room is empty. She looks back through the lens, and the girl is right there. As she stares at the vacant space, her brain practically short-circuiting. It's a total caught in 4K moment as she realizes she's looking at a literal ghost. She stands there frozen, wondering if she's finally lost her mind. The blonde girl starts dancing around the room, full of energy and life. Gu'an realizes the terrifying truth. This girl can only be seen through the camera lens. Suddenly, the ghost girl reaches her hand out toward the camera, making Gu'an flinch. Gu'an nearly jumps out of her skin, her face pale with fright. She's panting, trying to process the supernatural glitch in reality. In her panic, she accidentally drops the camera and it hits the floor with a thud. The sun begins to set, casting long, eerie shadows across the sky. Gu'an cautiously picks the camera back up, her hands shaking. She takes another look through the viewfinder, bracing for the worst. The girl is still there, looking incredibly cute and completely harmless. The ghost girl tilts her head, looking confused by Gu'an's weird behavior. She seems to be talking, but no sound is coming out of the camera. Gu'an has a sudden hunch and decides to test a theory. As she reaches into her hoodie pocket and pulls out a pair of earbuds. Oh, the second she plugs them into the camera, a headphones connected icon pops up. Suddenly, a loud voice blasts into her ears as the ghost girl scolds her for being rude and ignoring her. Gu'an stammered out an apology, realizing she can finally hear the spirit. The blonde girl is shocked, realizing that Gu'an can actually see and hear her. Internally, Gu'an's chibi self is just done with this situation. The ghost girl immediately jumps to conclusions, assuming Gu'an is a hardcore fan who tracked her down. She then demands to know why Gu'an is holding Sishong's camera. The ghost wonders if there's been a change of plans regarding a surprise. She admits she has no idea who Gu'an is and asks for her name. Gu'an opens her mouth to answer, but she's cut off. Low battery warning flashes on the screen with an ominous beep. Gu'an stares in disbelief as the tech fails her at the worst possible moment. The camera dies and the girl vanishes instantly, leaving Gu'an alone in the empty, silent room. Night falls over the campus and the atmosphere gets even heavier. Back in her dorm, Gu'an lies in bed, unable to sleep as her mind races. She's brooding over the encounter, looking completely drained. She rolls over and buries her face in her pillow, trying to forget what she saw. Finally, she sits up, realizing she can't just let this go. She reaches for her phone, the screen illuminating her determined face. She calls her friend from the badminton club, looking for answers. She asks if there's an upperclassman in the club who fits a specific description. Her friend is confused and asks for more details. Gu'an thinks back to the girl's features, starting with the long blonde hair. She mentions the English-style school uniform, which looked like something out of an idol show. She adds that the girl had a beautiful but overly expressive face that you couldn't forget. Her friend, who is walking through a dark hallway, suddenly stops as a realization hits her. She tells Gu'an that the girl was famous back in the day, and everyone called her Senior Xinghuo. The friend then mentions that, coincidentally, today is a very significant date. She explains the grim backstory. 3 years ago on June 24, Xinghuo was riding her bike to school when she was involved in a horrific accident with a van. Gu'an's heart drops into her stomach as the death flags finally connect. The screen fades to a chilling confirmation. She passed away. Gu'an stares at her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen in total silence. She decides she needs to verify the truth for herself. She hops out of bed, her expression grim. She flips open her laptop and starts frantically searching for news archives. Her fingers fly across the keyboard as she types in the senior's name. The search results load, and Gu'an's face pales as she stares at the screen, completely horrified by the tragic truth. Our story continues with the chapter Finding Old Friends, as Gu'an returns to the scene where everything changed. She clicks the record button on the old camera, hoping to catch another glimpse of the supernatural. Through the viewfinder, the classroom looks normal at first, decorated with a Pulp Fiction poster on the wall. But then, a face pops directly into the frame with a cheerful "Morning, Junior," nearly giving Gu'an a heart attack. Gu'an is completely blindsided and lets out a visible yelp, while the ghost girl just laughs at how easily spooked she is. The ghost Xinghuo is radiating major main character energy today, declaring that she won't let Gu'an slip away like yesterday. She demands to know Gu'an's name immediately. Gu'an keeps it professional, introducing herself as a broadcasting major from the class of 2022. Xinghuo doesn't buy it for a second, laughing that Gu'an is a terrible liar. She explains that she's a junior in the class of 2017, which means the current freshman should only be the class of 2019. Thinking she's being pranked, Xinghuo dares Gu'an to fess up about how much the directors are paying her to mess around, even offering to double the bribe. Internally, Gu'an is just exhausted by this girl's logic and tells her to just look at the evidence herself. She pulls out her smartphone to show Xinghuo the truth. Of course, Xinghuo gets immediately distracted by a photo of a cat, screaming about how it's a literal angel. Gu'an has to reel her back in, pointing out the digital clock that clearly shows the date is June 25, 2019. Xinghuo's brain finally starts short-circuiting as she realizes she has somehow time-traveled 3 years into the future. Outside, the world goes on as usual, but inside the room, the vibe is getting heavy. As Xinghuo takes a seat on a desk, her legs dangling as she tries to process the jump. She's visibly confused, crossing her arms while trying to make sense of the timeline. She even tries to shake off the stress, acting like a frustrated chiba as she wonders how she skipped 3 years. It finally hits her that in 2019 she should have already graduated 2 years ago. Gu'an watches her with a look of pity, knowing the reality is way darker than a simple sci-fi plot. While Xinghuo thinks she's a time traveler, the screen flashes to a grim reality. Police tape and a crime scene marker at the site of a fatal accident. As Xinghuo hops off the desk, deciding that since Gu'an is her first friend of 2019, she needs a favor. She hits Gu'an with a wink and a request to go somewhere with her. Gu'an is skeptical, staring at her phone and wondering what kind of mess she's getting into. She tries to set boundaries, reminding the ghost that she might not be able to help much given the whole being dead situation. Xinghuo waves off the concern, saying she doesn't need help returning to her own time. She just needs Gu'an to help her track down a few specific people. As they walk past walls covered in graffiti, Gu'an asks about this director person Xinghuo mentioned. Xinghuo describes the director as the backbone of the movie production club, a girl with unstoppable passion. She was the one who pushed them to dream about filming something truly godly. Gu'an sighs, realizing this director sounds like another handful to deal with. Xinghuo mentions that some seniors in the courtyard told her the director is still working nearby. She's actually shocked the girl isn't in Hollywood yet, considering her talent. When Gu'an asks what they'll do once they find them, Xinghuo gets a sparkle in her eye. She wants to tell them about her wonderful experience and finally finish filming their masterpiece. Xinghuo recalls that right before she traveled, she was on her way to film the final scene. Just as she mentions this, a red bus pulls up, which is a massive death flag for Gu'an. Gu'an's eyes go wide as the trauma of the accident reports flashes through her mind. In a moment of pure panic, she lunges forward to stop Xinghuo from getting near the road. She reaches out and grabs the ghost girl's hand firmly. Xinghuo stops in her tracks, blushing as she notices how warm Gu'an's hand feels. It's a total shoujo manga moment, with flowers blooming in the background as they share a look. The romantic vibe is instantly killed by a kid on the bus pointing out that Gu'an is just spacing out and waving at thin air. Xinghuo is left completely flustered, commenting on how direct Gu'an is being with the hand-holding. Realizing she's caught in 4K acting like a weirdo, Gu'an quickly retracts her hand and stammers an apology. We then get a special Kixi Festival extra taking us to a past generation. In this historical setting, an artist's hand pauses over a traditional ink painting. The artist is Gu'an, who tells her subject that it's hard to finish the painting if she keeps moving. The subject is Princess Xinghuo, who is decked out in a regal red robe. Xinghuo makes up a lame excuse about a mosquito biting her to explain why she can't sit still. Gu'an sees right through the cap, suspecting the princess is just causing trouble to keep her there longer. Xinghuo admits she's been found out and grabs Gu'an's hand, suggesting they ditch the painting and take a walk instead. They head out into the night to gaze at the stars, specifically the coward and weaving maid by the Milky Way. The story finally closes on a peaceful shot of a soft blanket covered in sheep and rainbows, a far cry from the ghosts of the past. Night falls over the city as Gu'an prepares for the next phase of her supernatural mission. She recalls being told she wouldn't be let go easily, realizing she's caught in a web of complicated debts and expectations. This whole situation has her feeling completely blindsided by the weight of the past. Looking back, Gu'an has always been the reliable one everyone dumped their problems on, whether it was babysitting her sister for a busy mama or acting as the teacher's assistant to grade endless practice tests. She spent her life being the invisible backbone of other people's success while lost in the crowd. She realizes that most people are inherently selfish, always looking for someone to help them carry their baggage. Internally, she scoffed, everyone prioritizes themselves in the end, so why should I be any different? Since the world works that way, she decides to stick to her usual method of managing people's expectations. After a quick shower to wash off the stress, she's ready to continue the charade. The next morning, she heads to the apartment complex where the former director is hiding out. She catches Senior Sihui taking out the trash, looking like she's completely given up on her dreams. Gu'an pops up out of nowhere, nearly giving the poor girl a heart attack. Sihui is caught in 4K, demanding to know how Gu'an even tracked her down. Gu'an explains that learning her schedule wasn't exactly rocket science. Sihui gets aggressive, telling her that whatever happened in the past has nothing to do with some random broadcasting student. But Gu'an drops the ultimate truth bomb. She's only here because Senior Xinghuo asked her to come. Sihui's face turns ghost white as she stammers that it's been 3 years since Xinghuo passed away. She looks like she's about to have a total mental short circuit right there in the alley. Gu'an stays cool, handing over the old video camera as physical proof. Sihui recognizes the specific scratches on the casing, and her skepticism starts to crumble. Just as Sihui tries to flip open the view screen to see the footage, Gu'an stops her. Internally, she thought, nice try, but we're not opening that Pandora's box just yet. They move to a public area to talk, though the tension is still thick enough to cut with a knife. Sihui tries to act casual while peeling a hard-boiled egg, calling the idea of communicating with a ghost through a camera absurd. Gu'an points out that while it sounds like a movie plot, it's the only explanation that fits. She mentions that she saw the old footage and could feel the meticulous passion in every single shot. She finds it impossible to believe that someone who loved directing that much would settle for a dead-end job at a convenience store. Sihui claims she just got hit by a reality check and realized she wasn't a chosen one. She explains that most people realize they aren't special only after they've already jumped off the ivory tower and started falling. Gu'an isn't buying the "I'm just a regular person" excuse for a second. She refuses to believe that the most passionate person in the film club would ever swear off movies forever. Sihui finally reaches her breaking point, her eyes filled with guilt. Gu'an watches closely as the former director prepares to reveal her darkest secret. Sihui drops the ultimate bombshell. She can't forgive herself because she's the one who killed Xinghuo. Flashback time. Let's head back 3 years to the day the production hit a dead end. The crew is chilling by the water, but the vibe is totally off because their lead is nowhere to be found. Sihui is trying to keep her cool, but she's definitely feeling the pressure. The actors are getting impatient and want to start filming before the beach gets swamped with tourists. They figure they can just skip her for now since she wasn't even scheduled for today's scenes. But the girl with the blue hair is stressing out, unable to shake the feeling that something is wrong. She decides to give it one last shot and rings the lead's phone again. To her surprise, the call actually goes through this time. She demands to know her location, but the girl on the other end says she's way out on Binhai Road. The crew is confused why on earth would she be all the way over there. The blue hair starts lecturing her, reminding her that she was the one who came up with the plan in the first place. Suddenly a massive tayyad echoes through the phone. Silence follows, and the lead stops responding entirely. And now the whole crew is officially in panic mode. This isn't some dumb prank. The atmosphere has turned completely cold. They scream Xinghuo's name into the void, but the line stays dead. Back in the present, Sihui is looking like she's about to have a total breakdown. Gu'an is playing the middleman, telling Sihui she needs to get a grip on her emotions. She reminds her that this whole mission is for her, pointing Sihui toward a nearby bench. Gu'an keeps the camera rolling, acting as the only set of eyes that can see the truth. Sihui nervously approaches the empty bench, completely unaware that Xinghuo is sitting right there waiting for her. Xinghuo is practically glowing with excitement, thrilled to finally have her friend nearby. She goes in for a massive hug, but Sihui just feels a sudden, chilling weight on her shoulders. Sihui is short-circuiting, her hands up in a total "don't touch me" gesture. Xinghuo pouts, wondering why her old director looks so dead inside, and if she's actually unhappy about this reunion. Gu'an translates the ghost's babble, telling Sihui she should use this transmigration experience as inspiration for her next godly film. Xinghuo reminds her of their old motto, "If you start it, you have to finish it." She tells Sihui that as a close friend, she absolutely cannot get cold feet now. Sihui has officially reached her limit and decides it's time to book it. She screams that she can't do this and tries to run away from the invisible pressure. Gu'an is blindsided, shouting for her to wait. But Xinghuo isn't letting her off the hook that easy and immediately gives chase. The ghost girl is on a mission, determined to corner her director once and for all. As she reaches out, desperate to grab hold of the person she's missed for years. She snatches at Sihui's clothes, finally making physical contact through sheer will. Sihui feels the tug on her shirt and lets out a gasp of pure terror. She stumbles, wondering how a ghost is actually able to touch her. Gravity takes over and she hits the pavement hard. Xinghuo looms over her, repeating that she won't let her escape this time. Sihui is caught in 4K, trembling as she realizes she can actually hear the ghost's voice now. The Bilibili logo pops up because, hey, even a ghost story needs a sponsor. Xinghuo takes a trip down memory lane to 6 years ago when they first met. Back then, Sihui was a bit of a skeptic who wasn't sure about the film life. Xinghuo was already the finisher type, promising to give her best until the very end. She basically dragged Sihui into the club, promising that she wouldn't have to work alone. The crew was small, but their ambition was massive. To the other students on campus, this group was just a bunch of weirdos. But they didn't care because they were building something together. Back in the park, Xinghuo reaches out her hand, offering to pull Sihui up just like the old days. She tells her it's her turn to save her friend from falling. Sihui flinches away, her guilt finally boiling over as she retracts her hand. She cries that she can't just pretend all those horrible things never happened. In her mind, she's the one who caused Xinghuo's death, and she can't face her. Gu'an decides the drama is getting too loud for a public park and shuts off the camera. Sihui is left staring at the blank screen, seeing nothing but her own reflection. She's totally confused, asking where Xinghuo went now that the bridge is gone. Gu'an stands up, tired of the constant running. She asks how much longer Sihui plans on hiding from her true self and her passion. Gu'an looks her dead in the eye, done with the excuses. She stands tall against a stormy sky, basically telling Sihui that running away is no longer an option. Because honestly, it's impossible to hide from the past forever. They move the conversation to a rainy cafe to dry off and talk business. The atmosphere is cozy, but conversation is getting intense. Gu'an reveals she's done her homework, talking to Sihui's old classmates and advisors. She knows Sihui hasn't actually quit filmmaking. She's been lurking in the back of directing classes like a total ghost herself. Even the professors noticed she's more serious than the students who are actually enrolled. She's been writing scripts and entering competitions every single year, never giving up on the craft. Gu'an calls her out, saying she uses her dead friend as an excuse for her own fear of reality. Internally, Gu'an scoffed. "Look in the mirror, buddy, you're the one holding yourself back." She tells Sihui that her behavior is actually disrespectful to Xinghuo's memory. Sihui tries to deflect, making excuses about not having any actors to finish the project. Gu'an tells her not to worry about the logistics and just asks for a promise to help when the time is right. Sihui finally gets up to leave, her head hanging low in defeat, and Gu'an watches her go, feeling like she finally broke through the director's wall. The waitress comes by to clear the table, but Gu'an isn't ready to leave. She orders another cup of coffee, because mediating between the living and the dead is exhausting work. A fresh cup arrives, but the seat across from her isn't empty, as Xinghuo is sitting right there, puffing out her cheeks in a massive pout. She's salty that Gu'an took her friend away, right when she was about to make her final push. Gu'an just shrugs, noting that sometimes outsiders see things way clearer than the people actually involved. Xinghuo reminds her that she's just an underclassman and shouldn't get too cocky. She warns Gu'an that they need to cooperate, and that she better not go doing things behind her back again. And Gu'an just nods along, internally rolling her eyes, because a deal is a deal, and the film must go on. Gu'an is officially on a mission to bridge the gap between the living and the dead, and the next step involves a little bit of detective work. Back at the apartment, the atmosphere is heavy with secrets waiting to be unearthed. Gu'an presents a small, pink object to Xinghuo, who looks absolutely blindsided by the reveal. Internally, she scoffed, "You really thought you could keep your digital footprint a secret forever?" To understand how they got here, the story jumps back 2 days to the dormitory. Gu'an is busy playing tech support for a ghost, trying to track down a specific piece of hardware. She's digging for info on a missing phone, knowing it's the key to everything. The clues are starting to stack up, but the trail is getting cold. Internally, she grumbled, being a medium is 10% magic and 90% unpaid intern work. She tells her contact that she's just collecting information for a new project. She eyes her camera equipment, knowing she needs to be ready for anything. After a quick goodbye, she prepares for the next phase of her plan. The next morning, Gu is on the move, stepping out to find the truth at its source. She didn't expect the journey to be this straightforward, but she isn't complaining. She arrives at a quiet, modern-looking house Xinghuo's family home. Stealing her nerves, she reaches out and presses the doorbell. She introduces herself as a friend of Xinghuo, hoping the grieving classmate routine works. Internally, she sighed, "I really hope I don't get caught in 4K lying to a mother." Xinghuo's mother answers the door, looking tired but welcoming. Inside, the house is pristine, filled with memories of a daughter who never came home. Gu'an politely declines tea, wanting to get straight to the point. She asks for permission to enter Xinghuo's room to retrieve an item. The mother agrees, leading her to the door with a heavy heart. She mentions how Xinghuo was always protective of her belongings, calling them full of secrets. Gu'an steps into the room, feeling the weight of the past. It's a typical girl's room, frozen in time and filled with stuffed animals. On the desk, she finds a framed photo of the film club during happier times. Everyone looks like they're on great terms, a far cry from the mess they are now. Gu'an starts searching the drawers, hoping the secret isn't too well hidden. There it is, a phone with a shattered screen, the ultimate relic of the tragedy. She asks the mother if she can take it, claiming it has something important for the club. The mother doesn't mind, admitting she doesn't really want to look at it anyway. Back at school, Xinghuo is overjoyed to be reunited with her digital life. The phone is a bit of a wreck, but it still works. Xinghuo immediately wants to exchange contact info, proving that even ghosts can't escape social media. She scans Gu'an's QR code, officially becoming her first supernatural friend. Gu'an notices Xinghuo's profile picture is a cat showing her soft side. However, reality hits when Gu'an realizes she actually has to go to class while her ghost friend is penniless and free. Night falls over the campus, and the dorms are buzzing. Gu'an returns to her room, exhausted from a day of being a bridge between worlds. She sets her phone down, ready to finally get some sleep. Suddenly, her phone lights up with a barrage of notifications from Xinghuo. Internally, she groaned. Does she not realize that ghosts don't need sleep? But I do. The phone starts vibrating like crazy, refusing to be ignored. It's a video call request from Xinghuo, which is definitely a new level of haunting. Gu'an gulps, wondering if she should even pick up. Her roommates are right there, and a ghost calling via FaceTime is hard to explain. She dives onto her bed, trying to keep the call low-key. She pops in her earbuds and answers, only to be greeted by a giant dinosaur. It's just Xinghuo in a dino hoodie, looking way too energetic. Xinghuo asks if she was shocked, clearly enjoying her new digital form. Suddenly, one of Gu'an's roommates looks over, sensing something is up. She asks Gu'an who she's talking to, noticing the secret conversation. The roommates immediately jump to the most obvious conclusion, a secret boyfriend. Gu'an tries to play it cool, saying it's just a girlfriend. Xinghuo, being a total troll, tells Gu'an to just lean into the boyfriend rumor to make things interesting. The story then shifts to a flashback from 3 years ago, when the film club was still finding its footing. The director is in a panic because she's realized a major blind spot. She barges in, looking like she's just discovered a world-ending disaster. The problem: the entire club is composed of girls, with 0 boys in sight. They failed to recruit any guys that year, which is a total death flag for their variety of scripts. But apparently, boys are more interested in gaming and sports than filmmaking. Xinghuo, ever the optimist, thinks an all-girls club is great for friendship stories. But the director argues that even those stories usually need at least one male character. Just then, a prince enters the room, apologizing for being late. It's Sumu, looking like she stepped straight out of a shoujo manga. The girls are stunned by her appearance, which is exactly the solution they needed. Back in the present, the campus is hosting an official recruitment event. The area is packed with students looking for opportunities. Gu'an is there, blending into the crowd while checking her messages. Xinghuo is still spamming her, wondering why she hasn't visited today. Gu'an tells her she has work to do, which isn't technically a lie since she's scouting. She's sitting in a lecture hall, looking over info about the other seniors. She's already found a lead on Sumu, who has become a successful entrepreneur featured on magazine covers. Gu'an heads to the recruitment booth, passing by nervous students and tired interviewers. She hears an interviewer roasting a candidate for having zero experience. Internally, she scoffed. "Welcome to the real world, kid." She finally spots her target, Sumu, sitting at a table and looking as regal as ever. She's surrounded by fans and looks like she's at an autograph session rather than a job fair. Gu'an realizes she won't be able to talk to her with this massive crowd. She decides to wait for a better moment. Sumu catches a glimpse of someone in the crowd, her expression turning serious. Later, as the sun sets, the campus settles down. Sumu heads to a local ramen shop to grab a meal. The shop owner recognizes her, remembering her from her school days. Sumu smiles, recalling how she used to come here with her club friends. The owner mentions how he initially thought she was a boy because of her style. Sumu takes her seat, ready to enjoy a quiet bowl of noodles. As she looks around the shop, perhaps feeling a bit of nostalgia, Gu'an seizes the opportunity and approaches her table. She asks if she can sit there, addressing her as Senior Sumu. Sumu looks up from her ramen, a bit surprised to be recognized. Gu'an mentions she saw her at the event and wants to ask her something personal. Sumu gets defensive, warning her that she might be disappointed. Suddenly, the sound of high heels clicking against the floor echoes through the shop. Sumu's eyes widen as she senses a familiar presence. Gu'an looks over her shoulder, curious about the newcomer. A stylish girl in a red coat and black skirt orders a bowl of ramen. Sumu looks like she's seen a ghost and not the friendly kind like Xinghuo. The girl, Yuxin, removes her sunglasses and stares Sumu down, setting the stage for a major confrontation. Gu'an is catching Sihui up on the latest drama over a plate of spicy crawfish. Sihui's jaw practically hits the floor when she hears that Gu'an actually ran into both the legendary Sumu and the mysterious Yuxin at the same time. Gu'an plays it cool, explaining she was just volunteering, but deep down, she knows the universe doesn't do coincidences this big. Looking at the two women side by side, it's clear something fishy is going on with their identical vibes. Flashback to the restaurant, where the air was thick with ex-friend energy. Sumu was clearly not in the mood for a reunion, demanding to know why Yuxin was stalking her. Yuxin tried to play the nostalgia card, claiming she just wanted to reminisce at their old hangout. Gu'an just sat there like a fly on the wall, witnessing the most awkward lunch date in history. Sumu wasn't buying the sob story and ended the meeting right then and there. She gave a polite but cold, "let's never do this again" smile. After dropping some cash for the meal, she stood up to make her grand exit. Sumu bolted out of there like she was escaping a burning building, leaving Yuxin in the dust. Gu'an watched the whole prince persona crumble under the pressure of the past. It was a total car crash of a meeting, and Yuxin was left standing there looking rejected. Back in the present, Siwa admits that Sumu is basically a real-life main character. During their school days, she was a total mystery who worked multiple jobs while everyone thought she was broke. It turned out she was actually a secret heiress whose family owned a literal third of the film industry. Internally, Gu'an rolled her eyes, thinking, great, she's a Mary Sue with a side of corporate trauma. While Sumu was the star, Yuxin was just a shy late bloomer trying to find her footing. Gu'an wonders if the whole film club was just a group of people the director managed to kidnap into his projects. Sumu eventually became the prince of the film group, a total heartthrob who had everyone under her spell. Gu'an starts to suspect that Yuxin isn't just a friend, but a full-on copycat stan. Over more food, Gu'an points out that Yuxin's new look is basically a copy-paste of Sumu's style. Sumu tries to gaslight her way out of it, claiming it's just a common hairstyle and that people change over 3 years. She even laughs it off, telling Gu'an she's just seeing things because she misses her too much. Gu'an isn't convinced. She knows a single white female plot when she sees one. To change the subject, Sumu offers Gu'an a crawfish, trying to be the big sis again. Gu'an politely declines the spice, but Sumu insists the fiery red snack is actually sweet. Internally, Gu'an is screaming because there is no way that much chili isn't going to end her. The scene shifts to the high-rise towers of LA Media Group under the stars. Today, inside the boss's office, Sumu is still pulling an all-nighter, looking like a literal angel under the desk lamp. Her assistant brings her a drink, begging the boss to finally catch some Z's. Sumu refuses, claiming she's actually interested in seeing what the current students are up to. The assistant then drops a bombshell. She was the one who leaked Sumu's location to Yuxin. Sumu just sighs, taking the betrayal in stride like it's just another Tuesday in the corporate jungle. She turns her attention to a download file, notification likely the ghost footage Gu'an sent. She's using the grind to escape the ghosts of her past, literally and figuratively. Suddenly, the footage plays, and it's Xinghuo starting her very first vlog. She's all smiles and hello friends energy as she introduces her latest adventure. The location, the massive LA Media Group headquarters. She hasn't been back in 3 years, and is hyped to see how much the place has changed. But as soon as she steps inside, she gets hit with a supernatural chill. As she scoffs at the fancy tech, calling it a total act. An assistant spots Gu'an and Xinghuo, assuming they are Sumu's VIP guests. Xinghuo is low-key disappointed she got caught so fast, since she wanted to play a mysterious intruder for the vlog. They get escorted to the private elevator, and Xinghuo is living for the prince's VIP treatment. While waiting in the lounge, Xinghuo makes herself at home on the sofa, loving the vibe. Gu'an asks what she's so happy about. Xinghuo says it's the atmosphere, but it's more about the respect. She complains that usually people ignore her so much, she can't even get a taxi or a pair of chopsticks. She's convinced that people in the 21st century have just become cold and heartless. Gu'an looks at her with pity, thinking, girl, you're a ghost. That's literally why they ignore you. We jump back 2 hours to the actual meeting between Gu'an and Sumu. Sumu cuts through the red tape and brings Gu'an straight to her office. She doesn't play games, demanding to know who the actress in the video is. Gu'an drops the truth bomb. There is no actress. The girl in the video is the real Xinghuo. Sumu recognizes the mark on the camera as belonging to an old friend and demands an explanation. Gu'an looks out over the city, explaining that Xinghuo is still here, but can only be seen through the lens. As she hands the camera over, letting the corporate queen see the truth for herself. Surprisingly, Sumu doesn't freak out. She admits that it actually makes sense because Xinghuo deserved a better ending. She pulls out a key to a locked drawer, finally ready to face the past. She hands over a folder containing the official report on Xinghuo's car accident. Sumu explains that it wasn't a hit-and-run or a murder. The driver was clean. It was a freak mechanical failure, a steering wheel malfunction that couldn't be stopped. A flashback shows the tragedy. A bright, youthful life snuffed out by a plot twist that would be considered bad writing in a movie. Sumu is visibly shaken, asking Gu'an what she's supposed to do now that she knows her friend is back. Even if it's all a crazy lie, the prince is ready to do whatever it takes to help. Gu'an looks at her, realizing the burden of the living is just as heavy as the dead. Things were getting way too cozy as Xinghuo decided to turn the camera on the camerawoman for once. The ghost vlogger was teasing Gu'an for being camera shy, acting like she was still filming a viral hit for her fans. Gu'an was completely caught off guard as the spectral girl leaned in close, breaking all personal space boundaries. Internally, she groaned. Can we focus on the literal ghost business and not my face? Xinghuo insisted that it was a crime to keep Gu'an's cute face hidden behind the lens. She was determined to make Gu'an the star of the show, even if the medium wasn't vibing with it. Gu'an looked like she was about to short-circuit from the unexpected attention. Xinghuo kept pushing her cute agenda, refusing to back down from the playful interrogation. Gu'an tried to retreat, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Just as the tension reached a boiling point, a sudden noise at the door broke the spell. Xinghuo was practically hovering over her when the guest finally arrived. The atmosphere was thick enough to make anyone sweat, even if half the room was technically dead. Gu'an hit the floor like a ninja, desperate to avoid the incoming awkwardness. It was Sumu, looking as professional and cold as ever in her suit. She apologized for being late, completely oblivious to the ghostly chaos she just walked into. Gu'an decided this was her cue to dip, claiming she needed a restroom break to escape the vibe. She played it off as giving the two old friends some quality bonding time. Sumu just gave a silent nod, letting the medium slip away into the hallway. Gu'an made a break for the exit sign, finally catching her breath. But she wasn't actually leaving. She was just setting up a sneaky stakeout to record the meeting from a distance. The official meeting was now in session, with Gu'an filming every word from the shadows. Internally, she felt like she was trapped in a low-budget detective movie. Sumu addressed the empty air, knowing Xinghuo was present thanks to the medium's briefing. Xinghuo was actually surprised by how chill Sumu was being about the whole "I'm a ghost" situation. She noted that even the director had a total meltdown when she first appeared. Sumu admitted that precisely because it was Xinghuo, nothing, not even death, was truly surprising. It turned out the group originally thought her disappearance was just another one of her legendary high-effort pranks. Xinghuo looked genuinely regretful, realizing her reputation for trolling had cost her everyone's trust for 3 years. Even though Sumu couldn't see her, their ability to hold a conversation was total main character energy. Sumu eventually cut to the chase, asking what the ghost's actual plans were. Xinghuo just wanted to vibe and enjoy how much the internet had evolved while she was away. Gu'an rolled her eyes at the meaningless jokes, deciding some things just weren't worth translating. But then Xinghuo's tone shifted as she stared at the tea set. She declared that they absolutely had to finish their godly film project from 3 years ago. Sumu thought the old script was a bit cringe and suggested a new movie about transmigration instead. Xinghuo shut that down instantly. It was the original film or nothing. Gu'an recorded the stubborn ghost, realizing this unfinished project was the anchor keeping her here. She wondered why Xinghuo was so obsessed with a film that was basically ancient history. Suddenly, the sound of clicking heels echoed down the hallway. Gu'an's radar pings as a new player entered the chat, and she didn't look happy. Sumu tried to keep things moving, agreeing not to stand in the way of the film. She started talking about the logistics and how they'd handle the other members, like Yuxin. But she was cut off by a cold voice asking who she was talking to. Sumu looked genuinely blindsided as the newcomer stepped into the light. Flashback to Gu'an and the director running like they were in a survival horror game. Back in the present, it was Yuxin, the obsessive copycat, crashing the meeting with zero chill. The office layout felt freezing as the two rivals finally faced off. Sumu was stunned to see her former teammate standing there. Episode 13 opened with a time skip to late afternoon, setting the stage for a confrontation. Xinghuo tried to play it cool and greeted her old friend with a wave. Yuxin didn't even acknowledge the ghost she couldn't see, keeping her eyes locked on Sumu. Sumu tried to get Yuxin to leave, clearly done with her drama for the day. Yuxin hit back with some heavy emotional baggage, refusing to be pushed aside. Gu'an was caught in the crossfire, sweating behind the camera lens. Yuxin dropped a truth bomb, reminding everyone that the real Xinghuo was gone for good. The room fell dead silent, the tension thick enough to suffocate everyone. Gu'an lowered her camera, feeling the weight of the messy history between these girls. Sumu stayed composed, but the air in the office was basically sub-zero. As Yuxin turned to walk out, she gave Gu'an a look that basically said, "Delete my number." Gu'an was left standing there, processing the absolute hostility of the encounter. Yuxin's parting words were a warning for her to stop digging into a past that didn't involve her. Later that evening, Gu'an brought a hot drink to Xinghuo to help her recover from the drama. Xinghuo took it, trying to shake off the bad vibes from Yuxin's visit. She admitted she had fainted earlier, likely because being a ghost is a total drain on the battery. Gu'an tried to pivot back to the mission, asking about Yuxin's explosive behavior. Xinghuo played it off, claiming Yuxin was just always a bit of a hater. Gu'an leaned against the railing, watching the sunset and feeling the weight of the mystery. He and Xinghuo got serious, insisting they couldn't just finish the film without Yuxin. Gu'an finally asked the question everyone was thinking. Why is she so persistent about this? She wanted to know the real reason behind the godly film obsession. And Xinghuo flipped the script, asking Gu'an why a normal student was risking her life for a ghost. Gu'an was stumped, staring out at the water as she searched for an answer. She looked at her camera, realizing she had become way more than just a camera woman. She thought back to meeting the director, and how she could have just walked away and lived a normal life. But instead, she chose to dive headfirst into this supernatural mess. Internally, she admitted, "I guess I'm just as obsessed with this mystery as she is." She told Xinghuo that her life was just too boring, and she didn't mind the fight. Xinghuo found the answer hilarious, giving her a look of pure amusement. She teased Gu'an for being cute, which only served to annoy the medium even more. Gu'an knew Xinghuo's motives were deeper than she was letting on, and the ghost was definitely hiding something. Xinghuo admitted that maybe slowing down and enjoying the process was the right move after all. She didn't want to keep dragging Gu'an into her ghostly drama every single time she needed help. But Gu'an had an ominous feeling that the real trouble was only just getting started. We cut to a high-rise apartment building where the next phase of the plan was unfolding. The director, Sihiwe, was walking home when she heard suspicious footsteps behind her. She was terrified, thinking a stalker or Yuxin was coming for her in the dark. She panicked, yelling that she had already given up Sumu's contact info. But a figure stepped out of the shadows, and it wasn't a killer. It was Gu'an, looking for more tea on Yuxin's situation and what they were hiding. Sihui was annoyed that she was being bullied for information in her own neighborhood. But the real shocker was Gu'an's undercover outfit. She was dressed in full, bright magical girl cosplay for the mission. Imagine going on a date with a literal ghost just to dig up some dirt on a school drama queen. Gu'an finds herself stuck on a park bench, decked out in a sugary sweet pink cosplay that definitely doesn't match her cynical soul. Internally, she's already counting down the seconds until she can take this wig off and go home. Of course, Xinghuo shows up with a camera rolling, acting like they're filming the vlog of the century. This whole date only happened because everyone else in the club conveniently had plans when Gu'an brought it up. Sumu pulled the "I'll just look like a background character next to you" card to dodge the invite. Even the other club members were suddenly booked and busy with work or personal excuses. Realizing she was blindsided into a one-on outing, Gu'an can only stand there and take it. Internally, she sighed, if I had known it would be like this, I would have stayed in bed. Xinghuo is at a level 10 energy, dragging Gu'an toward the nearest roller coaster. Gu'an immediately shuts that down, pointing out that their expensive wigs will literally fly off into the stratosphere. When Xinghuo suggests the water slide, Gu'an kills the vibe again, noting their cosplays will look like wet rags in minutes. Xinghuo pouts, complaining that Gu'an's standards for fun are basically non-existent. Standing there in her frilly gear, Gu'an decides to take charge of the itinerary. She picks the most thrilling ride she can find, a slow-moving, tiny children's train. Xinghuo looks like she's lost all faith in humanity, while face-palming at the sight of the toy train. Gu'an unironically defends it, claiming it's a safe and efficient way to get around the park without ruining their looks. Xinghuo isn't having it and demands to pick the next destination to save what's left of their day. She grabs Gu'an's hand and drags her away from the kiddie rides. Gu'an suddenly gets a bad feeling about where this is heading. Her fears are confirmed when they arrive at the local haunted house, which looks like it's straight out of a horror movie. Xinghuo smirks, telling Gu'an she can hold on to her if she gets too scared. Gu'an tries to play it cool, but she's definitely sweating under that pink wig. The staff tells them no filming is allowed, forcing them to ditch their cameras in a locker. To make things worse, they're separated, and Gu'an is forced to wear a blindfold for the immersive experience. Once she takes it off, she tries to rationalize her fear, thinking haunted houses are just for kids. She starts navigating the dark hallway, looking for jump scares like she's analyzing a script. But then she catches a glimpse of a bloodshot eye staring right at her. She freezes, realizing that this might not be an actor. Internally, she panicked. Wait, ghosts are actually real in my world, so this is literally a death trap. Gu'an books it down the hall, her frilly skirt fluttering in the wind. She slams right into a white curtain, losing her momentum. When she looks up, she's face to face with a tall, pale woman in a white dress. The ghost lets out a blood-curdling scream that sends Gu'an into a short circuit. Just as Gu'an is about to pass out from pure terror, a purple blur enters the frame. Xinghuo doesn't even hesitate and drops the ghost with a solid hit to the face. Later, the sun begins to set as they retreat to the safety of the Ferris wheel. Xinghuo is slumped over in the cabin, completely exhausted from her heroic rescue mission. Gu'an scolds her, pointing out that the ghost was just a regular worker and attacking them is literally a crime. Xinghuo tries to act cool, claiming she was just protecting her precious Gu'an. They bicker back and forth in chibi form, with Gu'an calling out Xinghuo's fake bravery. As they reach the top of the wheel, the sky turns a beautiful shade of orange. Xinghuo suddenly gets uncharacteristically serious, looking out at the view. She tells Gu, and that she's been a huge help and that she doesn't just see her as an assistant. To Xinghuo, Gu'an is already an important friend, just like the old crew used to be. The fireworks start reflecting off the water below, setting a suspiciously romantic mood. The sky explodes in a barrage of colors, lighting up the night. The two sit in silence, the shipmate energy reaching an all-time high. Xinghuo gives Gu'an a soft look, asking how she sees their relationship. Internally, Gu'an cringed. Don't ask me these open-ended questions. It makes me look like an idiot. As the fireworks finale hits, the park outing finally comes to an end. They walk through the quiet city streets, the mood still lingering between them. Gu'an realizes she missed her dorm curfew, so Xinghuo suggests a sleepover at her place since her parents are out. They arrive at Xinghuo's house and find the spare key hidden outside. Gu'an apologizes to the absent parents in her head as they click the lock open. Xinghuo leads the way in, telling Gu'an to keep her shoes on and make herself comfortable. She offers Gu'an her own room to stay in for the night. The room is a total disaster zone, scattered with plushies and random items. Xinghuo dives onto the bed, declaring it's time for an official pajama party. She's hyped up, clearly enjoying the company after being a lonely ghost for so long. She forces Gu'an into a gray cat onesie that is honestly too adorable for someone so grumpy. Xinghuo then off to the shower, leaving Gu'an alone with some snacks. The bathroom door closes, and steam starts filling the hallway. Gu'an, now looking like a grumpy feline, realizes this is her chance. It's time to start her main mission for the night. She thinks back to her meeting with director Sihui, who acted all mysterious and cryptic. Gu'an had pressured her for information about the hostile senior Yuxin. Sihui had hinted at a messy history between Yuxin, Xinghuo, and Sumu. These three were once the core of the club before everything went south. Sihui claimed it was too hard to explain the drama with words. But then she had a light bulb moment. She told Gu'an that since she loves playing detective, she should find the evidence herself. The director spoke in riddles, pointing Gu'an toward a specific location. That location was none other than Xinghuo's childhood home. Now inside the room, Gu'an starts scanning the shelves for anything that looks like a clue. She pulls open a drawer and finds a dusty diary, but decides it's a bit too invasive to read just yet. She peeks into the closet, noted that Xinghuo had way more clothes than any normal person should own. Something at the bottom of the closet catches her eye. She remembers the director mentioning a specific item that held the truth. She reaches down and pulls out a heavy, dark bag. It's an old briefcase, but there's a massive, dried blood stain covering the front. Gu'an's heart drops as she stares at the gruesome evidence. She's caught in 4K, trembling as she realizes the stakes just got way higher. She tries to open the bag, but the zipper is completely stuck. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and covers hers, stopping her in her tracks. Xinghuo is standing right behind her, fresh out of the shower, and asks with a chilling smile, "What are you doing, Gu'an?" After getting caught snooping through a bloodstained briefcase, Gu'an expects a total meltdown, but instead, she finds Xinghuo casually munching on snacks in a dinosaur onesie. Xinghuo isn't even mad, she just wishes her roommate would have been more direct about her curiosity. Apparently, there's nothing in this bedroom that's off-limits to Gu'an. Internally, Gu'an is short-circuiting because if the roles were reversed, she'd be absolutely furious. To make it interesting, Xinghuo suggests a game of rock, paper, scissors where the winner gets to ask a yes or no question. Gu'an wins the first round immediately. She wastes no time and asks if Senior Yuxin has special feelings for Xinghuo. Xinghuo is visibly blindsided by the question. She wonders why the interrogation is starting so intensely, but she's forced to play the rules. After a moment of thought, she gives a firm no to Gu and watches her closely, wondering if her roommate is actually going to be honest. Xinghuo gets fired up for round 2, determined not to lose again. But the rock, paper, scissors gods are not on her side. Gu'an reads her like an open book and wins for the second time in a row, leaving Xinghuo wondering if she's secretly a psychology major. Gu and looks at their matching slippers and prepares her next strike. Referencing an old club photo, she asks if the person with feelings for Xinghuo is actually Senior Sumu. Once again, Xinghuo denies it. Gu and feels like she's stuck in a mental maze, realizing her process of elimination is failing. They go for another round. The tension is high as they throw their hands out. Finally, Xinghuo secures a win and celebrates like she just won the lottery. Gu'an acts cool, telling her to go ahead since she doesn't have any big secrets. Xinghuo gives a mischievous look, noting that Gu'an's previous questions were all about her relationships. She leans in and asks if Gu'an is concerned about her in that way. Gu'an is caught in 4K, her face turning bright red as she tries to find an escape. Ultimately, she can't lie and whispers a soft yeah. Xinghuo beams with a smile that could light up the room. She realizes she's onto something and tries to push for a sneak peek at the next question. Overwhelmed by the sudden romantic tension, Gu'an abruptly calls for an end to the game, claiming it's way too late. She dives under the covers to hide her blushing face. Xinghuo just watches her. Looking incredibly satisfied with how the night turned out, they finally settle in and say their goodnights. The next morning, the sun rises on a new day of investigation. Gu'an meets up with the director, who notices the motionless robot is acting a bit more human today. Gu'an tries to play it off, but she's definitely caught some feelings. The director asks if she found the clue they discussed earlier. Gu'an shakes her head, admitting she didn't find the specific evidence, but she's figured out the heart of the matter by observing people. She decides the next step is to confront the people actually involved in the past drama. Meanwhile, Yuxin is hosting a shower stream for her fans. The chat is blowing up as she returns to her gaming chair. She puts on her headset, ready to continue her advice segment. She welcomes the next victim to the call. A user named Seeing Again joins the queue, and Yuxin assumes it's a girl with some girl problems. The caller begins her story, her voice sounding suspiciously familiar. She explains that she's an introverted college freshman who joined a club where everyone was amazing. She felt unremarkable compared to the others, but ended up falling for a senior. Yuxin immediately clocks it as a classic case of one-sided love. The caller explains that the person the senior liked moved overseas, leaving the senior depressed. To fix this, the caller tried to change herself into an imitation of that person to fill the void in the senior's heart. She asks if what she's doing is right. Yuxin doesn't sugarcoat it, telling her that being an imitation is a dead end. She explains that changing yourself only makes it harder for the senior to move on. Gu'an sits in her room, listening to the stream with a cold expression. Internally, she scoffs, thinking the caller is a laughable, pitiful idiot. Later, the girls head to the sports hall for some exercise. They set up for a game of ping-pong with Gu'an looking surprisingly focused. She tosses the ball to start the serve. With a sharp crack, the game is on. Gu'an is absolutely dominating the table, moving with unnatural speed. Xinghuo can barely keep up, missing shot after shot. It's a total slaughter as Gu'an scores point after point. The scoreboard shows a brutal 11-0 lead. Xinghuo collapses on the table, exhausted, and jokes that Gu'an should be in the Olympics. Gu'an remains humble, claiming she's never even had professional training. She notes that Xinghuo is probably the reason the score is so lopsided. Xinghuo is disappointed, realizing she couldn't even touch the ball. Gu'an realizes her imagination and connection to the spiritual side have improved, allowing her to sense Xinghuo's feelings even without her camera. However, she admits this kind of physical interaction is still challenging. They decide to take a breather. Sitting on a bench, Xinghuo gets philosophical about her life since transmigrating. She describes a strange feeling, like being in a dream where her thoughts are clear but her body won't obey. Gu'an understands, comparing it to floating in a river where nothing feels real. Xinghuo admits she sometimes thinks she'll just wake up and return to her old life from 3 years ago. Gu'an points out that going back would mean she, the director, and Sumu could finally finish their godly film. Xinghuo smiles sadly, admitting that's what she used to want. But lately, her perspective has shifted, as she confesses that she doesn't want to go back anymore, because if she did, she never would have met Gu'an. As she looks at Gu'an with genuine affection, in the original timeline, their ages and schools never would have aligned. Even if they had met, their relationship never would have developed into this. Gu'an is stunned, realizing Xinghuo views her as much more than just a temporary partner. Xinghuo looks up at the sky, hoping that even if this is all just a dream, it lasts just a little bit longer. After a night of heavy emotional reveals, the story picks up with our duo trying to figure out their next move. In the quiet of the library, Gu'an decides it's time to switch up the strategy for their big investigation. Xinghuo looks a bit lost, wondering what kind of 4D chess moves Gu'an is planning this time. Gu'an breaks it down simply, telling her to imagine their current situation like a game. Instead of a boring linear quest where they have to beat every level in order, they're looking at this through a different lens. It's not a strict path where they're forced to follow a script. Internally, she thought, why play by the rules when we can just break the game? It's an open-world setting where players get to choose which problems to tackle first. Xinghuo is low-key impressed that Gu'an is such a pro at gaming terminology. Gu'an explains she basically did a deep dive into game research to help a former roommate with a tutorial video. Since Sumu and Yuxin are basically acting like high-level boss roadblocks, they need to change the angle of their attack. Xinghuo realizes Gu'an is talking about bringing in the final piece of the puzzle, Sizhong. Xinghuo admits she totally forgot to mention that they might not actually need the director, Sumu, and Yuxin to finish the godly film. Gu'an is skeptical, wondering why they'd skip the person who was literally the camerawoman. Xinghuo tries to gas Gu'an up, mentioning that she's already got some serious filming talent. But Xinghuo knows that Sizhong's personality means she probably won't want to mess around with their club drama again. Even before the whole transmigration mess, Sizhong was always on a different level than the rest of them. Flashback to the club recruitment day where everyone was shouting about telescopes and roller skating. Sizhong was just sitting there, looking cool and collected while handing out forms. Xinghuo remembers asking if there was an interview, but Sizhong didn't care about the formalities. She was only a year older, but she had that mature woman energy that made her seem like she was already part of the working world. Even though she filmed a lot with the group, she always kept her distance. She was the reliable backbone of the crew, but she never truly let anyone in. She was a guiding force, sure, but she remained distant. Now that 3 years have passed, her talent has likely carried her to the top of the industry. Internally, Xinghuo sighed. She probably thinks our club activities were just kids playing house. It's very possible she's moved on and forgotten all about them. Her old camera was literally left to gather dust in a storage room. Fast forward to the present day in Los Angeles, USA. A massive award ceremony is underway, and someone is clutching a golden trophy. On stage, a stunning woman in a suit stands next to a presenter. It's Miss Scarlett, the artist formerly known as Sizhong, and she's just made history as the first female Asian filmmaker to win this prestigious prize. When asked how she feels, she drops a truth bomb that she regrets not using a white man as a stand-in. That way, the media would focus on the art instead of her race and gender. The high society crowd gives her a round of applause for the bold take. Outside the Dolby Theater, the Hollywood lights are shining bright. Scarlett is seen leaning against a wall, looking totally unimpressed by her own success. She lights up a cigarette, clearly needing a break from the fake smiles. Sumu walks up, catching her in 4K and asking why she's still smoking those cheap lights. Scarlett admits that despite the fame, life back in the day was actually more interesting. Under the glow of the full moon, the two power players discuss the past. Sumu asks if she's checked her messages lately, specifically from a certain underclassman. Scarlett's assistants usually delete that kind of fan mail, but Sumu insists she should take this meeting. Sumu claims that Scarlett and this mystery girl are actually very similar. Back at the dorms, episode 19 kicks off with a look at the late-night skyline. Gu'an and Xinghuo are having a cozy video call while tucked into bed. Xinghuo is surprised to learn that Gu'an is a huge fan of suspenseful movies. Gu'an hints that her interest in the genre might have something to do with her mother's high-stakes job. Meanwhile, Yuxin is just happy that Gu'an's secret friend is giving her stream a major popularity boost. Gu'an flips the script and asks Xinghuo what she likes to watch. It turns out Xinghuo is a total animation nerd who loves 2D films. She prefers emotional stories about relationships over complex logic puzzles. Xinghuo mentions that a classic film is back in theaters and shoots her shot. She asks Gu'an to go watch it with her, even though they've seen it a million times. Her logic: they've never watched it together in a theater before. Gu'an is about to give her an answer when she's interrupted. Her phone alarm starts blaring at 2:25 a.m. Internally, she panicked. Crap, I'm going to be late for the most important meeting of my life. She tells a confused Xinghuo that she has a prior arrangement for an interview. Xinghuo is baffled why anyone would do an interview in the middle of the night. Gu'an explains the time difference and promises to fill her in tomorrow. Xinghuo plays it cool and tells her good luck before hanging up. The call ends and Gu'an takes a deep breath. She opens her laptop, ready to face the final boss of the film club. On the other side of the screen is Scarlett, looking every bit the world-class director. Scarlett mentions that Sumu already gave her the gist of the situation, but she wants to hear the truth from Gu'an. Why is she helping a ghost? Gu'an claims there's no special reason and that she's just an average person with no big dreams. Scarlett smirks, realizing Gu'an is basically just killing time and could easily be doing anything else. She decides to propose a little experiment to see how indifferent Gu'an really is. Since it's 2:30 a.m. in Gu'an's time zone, the 24-hour challenge begins now. The catch is simple. Gu'an can't do anything involving Xinghuo or the club for a full day. Scarlett figures that if Xinghuo is just any other activity to Gu'an, this should be light work. She tells the junior she'll be waiting for her thoughts this time tomorrow. Morning hits the campus like a truck. Yuxin is still out cold, probably dreaming about her next viral stream. Gu'an is already up and moving, trying to wash away the exhaustion. As she's drying her hair, the struggle is already getting real. Her phone buzzes on the desk with a new notification. It's a message from Xinghuo, probably checking in after the interview. Gu'an stares at the screen, realizing she's already being tested. Internally, she groaned. It's only been a few hours and I'm already failing the vibe check. Gu'an is back at school, but her mind is definitely not on the boring lecture. The professor is droning on about communication science and how messages can change a person's beliefs, which is way too on the nose for her current situation. Gu'an tries to focus, but she's literally staring at the word experiment in her notes. Internally, she groaned, "Great, even my textbooks are mocking my life choices now." Scarlett's voice keeps echoing in her head, reminding her of the 24-hour no-contact challenge. She tries to play it cool and act like a model student, but the emotional struggle is real. She figures that if she just follows her usual routine, she can survive the day without breaking her streak. Cut to the noisy cafeteria, where the social vibes are at an all-time high. Her classmates are stressing over the possibility of being called on by the teacher, treating a few lost points like a total death flag for their GPA. Gu'an shows up with her tray, which is a rare sight since she's usually a total ghost. Her friends are absolutely blindsided to see her actually eating lunch with the mere mortals. They joke about how she usually vanishes after class like she's on a secret mission. Gu'an just shrugs it off, claiming she just happened to be free today. One of the girls suggests hitting up karaoke since the afternoon is wide open. Gu'an plays along, even though her social battery is already blinking red. Suddenly, one of the girls looks at her phone and mentions Xinghuo, and Gu'an nearly has a heart attack. She's caught in 4K looking completely startled by the name. Her friends wonder what's wrong, but Gu'an tries to play it off as a misunderstanding. It turns out the girl was just talking about a gacha game event and how the grinding is soul-crushing. Internally, she sighed in relief. Note to self: don't jump out of your skin every time someone says a two-syllable word. Still, she realizes she's becoming way too oversensitive to everything. The group heads to the karaoke room, complete with the mandatory disco ball. They kick things off with a classic rickroll, because apparently even in manhwas, you're never safe from being let down. Her friends are giving it their all, singing like their lives depend on it while Gu'an sits quietly. They're surprised when Gu'an actually adds a song, specifically a J-Chu track. Everyone is hyped to finally hear the mysterious Gu'an drop some bars. She takes the mic, looking a bit nervous but ready to commit to the performance. As the music starts, the vibe in the room completely shifts to something more melancholic. Gu'an starts singing, and it's clear she's not just going through the motions. The lyrics about elementary school memories and scenery seem to hit her deep. Her friends are stunned, realizing she's actually got some serious talent. As she sings about paper airplanes and meteors, the visuals of her past friendships start to blur into her current feelings. She's pouring her soul into the performance, reflecting on the fate that brought her to this point. The song talks about the line between friendship and something more, and Gu'an is clearly feeling the weight of those words. She looks completely lost in the melody, her mind drifting to a certain ghost vlogger. Her eyes are shimmering with unshed tears as the last notes fade out. Her friends immediately rush to check on her, sensing something is off. Gu'an forces a smile, claiming she just ran out of breath because her lungs aren't strong enough. Suddenly, phones start vibrating all over the room, breaking the mood. One girl screams for Gu'an to check her phone, revealing that the teacher actually leaked the exam questions in the group chat. The chat is exploding with people apologizing to the teacher for the earlier trash talk. Gu'an stares at her screen, taking a deep breath as the reality of her situation sinks in. She looks completely drained, her face hidden behind her hair. She tells them she has something urgent to deal with and out of the room. Outside, the weather has turned into a total mood, pouring rain everywhere. Xinghuo has been blowing up her phone all day, asking if she's awake or how the interview went. By mid-afternoon, Xinghuo is getting desperate, wondering why Gu'an is ghosting her so hard. She sends a heartbreaking message saying she's just happy Gu'an stayed by her side this long. Gu'an is wandering through the storm, completely drenched and looking like a mess. Xinghuo is recording her vlog, sounding completely lost and asking the camera where Gu'an went. Gu'an looks like she's about to collapse from the emotional weight of the challenge. She drags herself up the stairs, her shoes soaking wet with every step. She finally reaches the club room, looking like a drowned rat. She pushes the door open with a slow, heavy creak. The curtains are blowing in the wind, and the room is filled with a somber atmosphere. She sees a figure huddled on the floor by the window. It's Xinghuo, looking small, defeated, and lonely. Gu'an can barely whisper her name. Xinghuo looks up, her eyes wide with shock and sadness. She's stunned to see Gu'an actually standing there. Gu'an finally collapses to the floor, her energy completely spent. Xinghuo immediately panics, offering to get a towel so she doesn't catch a cold. Seeing her friend's genuine concern, Gu'an can't help but feel a massive wave of relief. She grabs Xinghuo's arm, pulling her close. Internally, she admitted, challenge failed. I'm a total simp for this ghost. Xinghuo is just confused, asking why she didn't answer any calls or messages. Gu'an realizes that she's the one who caused all this unnecessary drama by trying to be cold. She props herself up on the table, trying to regain some dignity. Xinghuo is busy setting her status to special follow so she never misses a message again. Gu'an leans in and softly asks if they should go watch a movie like they talked about last night. She even mentions getting those spicy lobsters Xinghuo loves afterward. Xinghuo is touched, her eyes sparkling again. She agrees but says they should wait for the rain to stop first. For now, she just wants Gu'an to sit and watch the rain with her. The next morning at 9:21, Gu'an is back in front of director Scarlett. She looks professional again, but admits she failed to report on time. Scarlett points out that the lack of a call last night was an answer in itself. Gu'an admits she totally misjudged her own thoughts and beliefs. She tells Scarlett that her goal is to finish the film, regardless of her own messy emotions. Scarlett just shakes her head, revealing that she used to be exactly like Gu'an. She admits she used to label herself as an outsider to downplay how much people actually affected her. Gu'an listens intently, realizing she's not the only one struggling with these feelings. Scarlett gives her a code and tells her to check an encrypted folder on the camera if she wants to know everything. The drama is heating up as Gu'an and Xinghuo finally share a rainy stroll under a single umbrella, looking like a total couple. But things take a sharp turn into the past as we dive into the footage from the encrypted folder, showing a beach scene where the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Sumu stands there looking like he's about to drop a bombshell, clearly struggling with a choice that's gonna break someone's heart. He looks absolutely drained, giving off major "I messed up" vibes as he tries to maintain his composure. Internally, the girl watching scoffs, classic male lead behavior, making everyone miserable while looking pretty. Yuxin, meanwhile, puts on a brave face, acknowledging that some people are just born with that main character energy that outshines everyone else. Here, as the camera pans down to her feet in the sand, the director finally yells cut, ending the emotional torture for the actors. Scarlett snaps her fan shot with a satisfying click, looking like the ultimate boss on set. She's thrilled they nailed the scene in one take, even if Sumu looks like he just survived a mental breakdown. Scarlett immediately starts showering Yuxin with praise, practically vibrating with excitement over the performance. Despite the success, there's a lingering sense of reluctance in the air, as if the story they're telling is hitting a little too close to home. Scarlett can't help but grin, knowing she's capturing something legendary. As she points out a tiny, brilliant detail about how a skirt was handled during the scene. The footage shows the exact moment the fabric was released, adding that perfect touch of realism. Scarlett even notices Yuxin's hand is red from the intensity of the scene, proving the girl was really giving it her all. In the background, Sumu just watches silently, looking like he's haunted by his own character's decisions. Back in the present, Scarlett is casually smoking while chatting with Gu'an, who is out for a jog and trying not to sound completely out of breath. Gu'an confirms she's watched all the videos, and honestly, they've confirmed every wild theory she had. Internally, she thought, I should have been a detective instead of a student. Scarlett puts out her cigarette and stands up, ready to move on to the next phase. She looks sharp and focused, clearly impressed by her junior's sharp mind. The conversation shifts to the legendary Scarlet Lin work, a project that seems to be the key to everything. Gu'an actually starts laughing on the phone, which catches Scarlett off guard. As other students jog past her, Gu'an stops to catch her breath and lay down the law. Her legs are feeling the burn, but her mind is sharper than ever. She tells Scarlett that the experiment they ran actually forced her face some hard truths about herself. Scarlett looks a bit blindsided, realizing she might have underestimated Gu'an's resolve. Then on the video call, Scarlett smirks, admitting that the junior has officially turned the tables on her. Gu'an stares at the screen, offering to come back and cooperate, but on her own terms. Scarlett takes off her glasses, her expression softening as she realizes this partnership just got a lot more interesting. We then get a glimpse into Scarlett's own history, walking through a crowded city with a camera in hand, looking for the perfect shot. She's always been obsessed with the lens, capturing life from the sidelines. Whether it's filming shop windows or random street scenes, she's always been on the other side of the story. But then, she captures something she wasn't prepared for: Xinghuo across the street, a dog, and a car speeding into the frame. The world goes into a blur of motion and panic, and Xinghuo looks absolutely terrified as the realization of the impending accident hits. As she tries to run, her school uniform fluttering in the wind, Scarlet drops everything and sprints toward the scene, her camera falling to the ground as she tries to intervene. The memory shifts to Scarlet entering a dark, quiet room, the weight of the past heavy on her shoulders. She sets her camera down, looking completely defeated by the events she couldn't change. Her eyes are filled with a deep, lingering sadness as she whispers a name from the past. She stands by a closed door, looking like she's waiting for a ghost to walk through. The camera sits abandoned on a box, a silent witness to a tragedy that wasn't supposed to happen. Scarlet admits that back then, she couldn't respond to the wishes of the person she lost. Today, she clutches her chest, the regret still fresh after all these years. Gu'an listens intently, realizing that this whole film project might just be a way for two selves to finally reconnect. The scene shifts to the impressive Lulin Academy for Girls, where the sun is shining on the iconic clock tower. Xinghuo is in full tour guide mode, spinning around in her old school uniform and announcing that a new region has been unlocked. She welcomes Gu'an to her alma mater with a flourish. Standing in front of the prestigious academy, Xinghuo looks like she's back in her element. Gu'an is busy filming everything, a bit surprised to learn that Xinghuo was actually a scholarship student here. Xinghuo leads her through the halls, pointing out portraits of famous alumni. Apparently, this school churns out CEOs and esports champions like it's nothing. Watching the girls play basketball outside, Gu'an starts to feel a bit overwhelmed by the pure power atmosphere. She's blushing and sweating, clearly not used to being in such an intense environment. Internally, she realized, no wonder she's so comfortable around girls and totally clueless about guys. Suddenly, Xinghuo grabs her wrist, pulling her along, as Xinghuo is eager to show off the rest of the campus before visiting hours are over. They stop at a statue of the school's founder, Ayn Rand Vine, whom the students affectionately call Granny. Xinghuo then points out the old dorms, mentioning rumors of a ghost that forces people to do math proofs at night, which is honestly the scariest haunting imaginable. Next up is the genius Bell Tower, a signature building of the campus. Xinghuo gets a bit quiet, mentioning there are old rumors about the place that are better left unsaid. Gu'an immediately senses a plot hook and asks to see inside. They start the long trek up the stairs, which is a total leg workout without an elevator. Xinghuo looks back, wondering if Gu'an is keeping up. Gu'an is still filming, her eyes fixed on the camera screen. She finally confronts Xinghuo on the landing, revealing that she saw the hidden scene Scarlet filmed 3 years ago. Gu'an admits she finally understands why Xinghuo kept so many secrets. It wasn't her story to tell. They reach the door at the top, a key location for the godly film. Gu'an explains how the rumors of paper airplanes falling from the tower were actually just props from the movie. She connects the dots back to the film's ending, where the boy chooses the perfect girl over his childhood friend. But Xinghuo wasn't happy with that ending and tried to change the script before her accident. The footage showed her riding her bike, dropping her bag in a hurry 3 years ago. Gu'an looks at her, essentially saying, "I caught you in 4K, girl." Xinghuo realizes the tables have truly turned and her junior has figured everything out. A shoe thumps against the brick wall as the tension peaks. Xinghuo suddenly pins Gu'an against the wall in a classic Cabaton move, looking down at her with a smirk. Internally, Gu'an's brain is short-circuiting as Xinghuo teases her for being just a junior. Every legend has a beginning, and for Gu'an, it all started under a tiny umbrella with a girl who shouldn't even exist. Back in the day, she was just another background character in the school's daily grind, dodging tests and keeping her head down. Internally, she accepted her fate as a certified NPC, a mere spectator in everyone else's rom-com. That was until a wild paper plane decided to crash her solo walk. It literally bonked her on the head, forcing her to pause her routine. She picked up the mysterious projectile, wondering who was out here littering with such style. This single moment of curiosity was about to end her streak of being boring. Inside the classroom, she was already back to the grind, likely writing down things she'd forget in an hour. Her friend was busy gossiping about the legendary paper planes that had been raining down on the school lately. Apparently, these weren't just trash. They were covered in high-tier sketches. While her friend thought it was just an art student's prank, she suggested a more main character theory. If you got hit by one, you'd supposedly gain a massive luck buff for the day. Gu'an wasn't buying the luck story, especially when another plane went airborne right in front of her. She tracked it down to a nearby pond, where she found it being gatekept by a local cat. She managed to trade some attention for the paper, realizing this just a random doodle. She pinned the sketches to a board, realizing they all featured the same scenery from the west side of the school. Internally, she realized this isn't just art, it's a POV. Every single drawing was executed from a high-angle perspective, pointing to one specific location. All signs led to the school's massive clock tower. Gu'an decided to investigate, climbing the endless spiral stairs like she was in a dungeon crawl. As she reached a mysterious door at the top, bathed in a suspicious cinematic glow. Taking a deep breath, she pushed it open. Peeking inside, she caught a glimpse of someone who definitely had main character energy. There she was, a blonde girl in the middle of a masterpiece, looking like a total pro. The artist stopped her work, turning to face the intruder with a calm, ethereal vibe. This was the fated encounter that would flip Gu'an's world upside down. Fast forward to the present, and Gu'an is being gently shaken awake on a bus. As she opens her eyes to see Xinghuo smiling right in her face. It turns out she fell asleep on Xinghuo's shoulder like a total amateur. As she shot up immediately, apologizing for the accidental PDA. Xinghuo just laughed it off, asking if she'd been having a nice dream while they traveled through the suburbs, and admitted she was dreaming about the godly film and the weird reality shifts she's been facing. In her dream, she had completely replaced Sumu as the lead character. Xinghuo teased her about being obsessed with the project. She then hit Gu'an with a heavy question, "Do you regret getting involved?" Gu'an just brushed it off, complimenting the director's beautifully written lines. Somewhere else, the director, Scarlett, caught a massive sneeze, wondering who was currently slandering her name. Back in the flashback, Xinghuo was the one catching a cold in her drafty tower. She let out a sneeze that sounded like a total death flag for her immune system. Back at school, Gu'an's friend showed off a handmade scarf, looking for some praise. She had spent a lot of effort on it and thought it looked pretty fire. Gu'an complimented her talent, wishfully thinking she had those DIY skills. Her friend tried to gift it to her, but Gu'an hesitated since she already had a collection of scarves. The friend insisted, saying she was originally planning to give it to someone special. Gu'an had a sudden light bulb moment. She asked if she could pass the gift along to someone else who actually needed it. Gu'an headed back to the secret tower, carrying the scarf and some supplies. Xinghuo welcomed her in, looking a bit lonely among her paper planes. As she looked up with those big eyes, noting that Gu'an had been MIA due to midterms, Gu'an apologized and handed over a fresh drink she'd bought. Xinghuo thanked her, realizing the weather was shifting from iced tea season to hot drink season real fast. They sat together on the floor, surrounded by art and discarded planes. Xinghuo looked cozy, but her red nose gave away how cold she actually was. Gu'an then pulled out the gift box, wrapped neatly with a ribbon. She handed it over, telling Xinghuo she'd understand once she saw what was inside. Xinghuo opened the box, her eyes widening in surprise. She pulled out the white scarf, feeling the warmth immediately. She asked if Gu'an had actually made this herself. Gu'an kept it real, admitting she's not that skilled and a friend made it. When Xinghuo questioned the word, friend, Gu'an described her as a grandma who worries about everything. She realized she was rambling about people Xinghuo couldn't possibly know. They sat in silence for a moment, the atmosphere getting a bit heavy. But Xinghuo assured her it was fine, claiming she remembers almost everything Gu'an says anyway. Gu'an realized this girl was built different from anyone she'd ever met. Xinghuo's memory was essentially a superpower. She remembered every detail of every sketch, even if she only saw it once. The bell tower was her Rapunzel fortress, keeping her isolated. It was a way to keep her mind from getting cluttered by the messy outside world. Gu'an looked at her, feeling a mix of awe and pity. She knew she wasn't supposed to get this close, but things were moving too fast to stop now. Xinghuo tried to put on the scarf, but ended up wearing it like a hood, looking totally confused. Gu'an couldn't help but laugh at the serious attempt. As she stepped in to give a tutorial, wrapping it properly around Xinghuo's neck. She tightened the knot and adjusted the shape until it was perfect. Xinghuo declared she had officially memorized the technique. Gu'an joked that she wished she had that genius memory for her school tests. But Xinghuo shot that down immediately, looking surprisingly somber. She claimed she wasn't a genius at all. Looking down, she dropped a bombshell about her condition. She didn't have a better memory than others. She simply lacked the function that allows humans to forget. Back in the present night, they reached a stopping point under a street lamp. Xinghuo told Gu'an to go home and get some rest for the weekend. Gu'an thanked her for being such a goat at acting and playing a character so different from herself. Xinghuo just smiled, saying she found a lot of common ground with the role once she got into it. She waved goodbye, promising to see Gu'an tomorrow. Gu'an waved back, watching her friend walk away into the night. As she put her camera down, Gu'an started overthinking. What did she mean by sharing a lot in common? With acting skills that good, Gu'an realized she couldn't even be sure if the version of Xinghuo she saw was the real deal. She felt a chill, realizing her attempt to find the real ending might have been way too complacent. The story kicks off at a neon-lit bar called Lime, where the atmosphere is as heavy as the secrets being kept. A bartender slides over a signature cocktail called the Moonlight Bard, setting the mood for a late-night confrontation. Waiting at the counter is the blonde executive, Yuxin, who looks like she's about 2 seconds away from losing her patience. A quick message pings her phone with a classic, "Sorry, I'm late," excuse that she's definitely heard before. Finally, her white-haired colleague rushes in, claiming he got stuck at the company and had to double back. Yuxin isn't buying the drama, knowing full well he's a massive workaholic who can't leave a single task unfinished. He plays it off as just having a bit of OCD, but Yuxin cuts to the chase, asking why a busy man like him suddenly cleared his schedule to meet her. He tries to act smooth, claiming he just wanted to grab a drink with a friend, which is definitely suspicious behavior for these two. Yuxin calls him out immediately, noting they've worked together for 2 years, and he's never pulled this move until now. The mood shifts when he mentions it's been exactly 3 years since that day, basically dropping a massive emotional weight on the table. Internally, Yuxin scoffed. Seriously, you can't go anywhere without bringing that up. She tells him straight up to stop letting his life revolve around the past and just leave it all behind already. He admits she's right, but insists they need some kind of ceremony to prove that the chapter is finally closed. Yuxin's suspicion spikes, and she asks if this sudden meeting is actually about the short-haired junior from their past. Fed up with the cryptic vibes, she stands up to leave, declaring that whatever he's digging up has absolutely nothing to do with her. He's left sighing at the bar, totally failing to persuade her to stick around and help him with his mission. Suddenly, a mysterious voice chimes in from the darkness, saying, "Now you see." It turns out Scarlet, also known as Sis Hong, was lurking nearby the entire time. She struts over with total main character energy. She greets Yuxin, proving that the corporate drama is about to get way more complicated. Meanwhile, back at the dorms, the night is still young, but the vibes are stressed. Gu'an is currently fighting for her life against a blank Word document, trying to hammer out a script for her movie project. She feels like a total clown for bragging to Xinghuo earlier when she can barely get a single line of dialogue down. Her roommate, Little Yu, suddenly spawns behind her, catching her in the middle of her writing crisis. She asks if Gu'an is doing homework, but quickly realizes she's looking at a script. Gu'an admits she's been into movies lately, but is currently stuck in a massive creative bottleneck. Little Yu suggests that writing is like a game where you need a high-level mentor, and offers to introduce her to a best-selling author she knows online. Gu'an gives her a skeptical look, wondering if this author is actually legit or just some random person on the internet. Internally, she sighed. She's just being nice. There's no way this actually helps. Little Yu says the author is online right now, but warns there are some conditions if she wants the meeting. Instead of a link, she pulls out a high-tech VR headset. Gu'an is left completely blindsided by the sudden shift into tech bro territory. Gu'an gets plugged into the system and finds herself transformed into a blue furry cat avatar. She's low-key panicking as green code streams past her eyes like she's in the Matrix. Little Yu, looking like a battle-ready anime protagonist, leads the way through the digital void. She's impressed that Gu'an hasn't fallen over yet, since the VR movement can be tricky for first-time users. They start heading toward a massive structure to meet the mysterious canary. They trek up a staircase floating in a literal galaxy filled with candy and planets. Little Yu explains that this virtual space is for people to chill without anyone caring about their real identities. She mentions that Canary's true face is a total mystery, but she's definitely the goat at playwriting. Internally, Gu'an felt attacked because Little Yu had already ruled her out as being talented enough to be the real Canary. They finally reach the top of the stairs. A giant, golden birdcage sits at the center of the digital universe. They step inside a massive, ornate hall that looks like something out of a Hajit RPG. They find Canary herself, a white-haired girl hanging out with a very fancy-looking white fox. Little Yu barely introduces them before claiming a mysterious power, is summoning her to a fight, leaving Gu'an to fend for herself. Gu'an is left standing there awkwardly as Little Yu vanishes into a magic circle way too quickly. She introduces herself using the screen name Seeing Again. Canary skips the small talk and asks Gu'an what kind of writing problem is currently ruining her life. Canary carries herself with a level of elegance that's honestly a bit intimidating. Gu'an admits she wants to rewrite her script's ending to make it feel more natural and realistic. Canary decides to get psychological and brings up Sigmund Freud's theory. She explains the superego, which is the logical side of writing, versus the id, which is raw instinct. Canary reads Gu'an like a book, saying she's the type of person who tries to solve everything with pure logic. She claims Gu'an has locked her emotions deep inside her heart to avoid deviating from her default settings. Gu'an is shook that she got read like an open book by a stranger in a cat suit. Deciding that what happens in VR stays in VR, Gu'an figures there's no harm in being honest for once. Canary encourages her, reminding her that authors are basically professionals at accepting bizarre fantasies. Gu'an starts typing out her secret, making sure her roommates can't overhear her real-world voice. She recounts the afternoon a classmate asked her to help clean up the film club room. She explains that while she was cleaning, she stumbled upon something that changed everything. After reading the story, Canary admits it's so aesthetic and elegant that even she couldn't have written it. Gu'an clarifies that while it sounds like a movie, it was her actual reality. Canary claims she knows a method that might help Gu'an get past this bottleneck. Gu'an is skeptical but stays focused on the advice. She gives a polite bow, thanking Canary for the high-level guidance. Before she leaves, Canary pulls out a glowing tarot card as a parting gift. Gu'an takes the card, wondering what kind of luck she just pulled. Canary tells her she doesn't need to explain what she sees on it, just keep it as a souvenir. The card reveals the star, symbolizing hope and a new path forward. Gu'an prepares to log off and return to her dorm. But just as she's about to leave, she notices something weird in the digital sky. A massive light streaks across the horizon, leaving her totally stunned as the world starts to blur out. High above the digital clouds, a mysterious girl watches the stars from a floating cage. Her hand brushes against the virtual glass as she contemplates the vastness of the network. They're accompanied by her tiny white companion. She looks like she's straight out of a high-tier gacha game. They discuss the guest who just visited, noting that while she shares their origin, her symptoms are totally different. This girl is walking a path meant only for people like them, leaving the observers wondering if they should intervene. Back in the VR chat room, a small furry cat avatar starts explaining the mechanics of VR Connect. Suddenly, a magic circle glows beneath the feline's paws as the system starts to glitch out. The ruffles of a dress appear as the avatar undergoes a literal magical girl transformation. In a flash of light, the cat is gone, replaced by a top-tier cat girl. Little Yu is absolutely blindsided, realizing this new waifu is actually Gu'an. Gu'an confirms her identity, leaving Little Yu questioning the logic of the universe. Little Yu points out that it's weird for Gu'an to look like her real self in VR, while everyone else is out here living their best fantasy lives. Gu'an tries to argue that her school uniform is a design choice, but she immediately loses her cool when called out. Internally, she grumbled, "So much for my mysterious protagonist energy." Little Yu doesn't care about the logic and immediately goes in for a hug, obsessed with the new catgirl look. The Gu'an gives a smug look, clearly proud of the upgrade, but the mood shifts when Little Yu decides to test the physics of the avatar by pinching Gu'an's ears. Little Yu is shocked that there's no reaction, assuming cat ears were supposed to be a weak point. Gu'an has to remind her that this is a virtual avatar, not a biological experiment. Feeling left out, Little Yu decides she needs a makeover too. She tells Gu'an to wait and starts the transformation sequence. A massive cloud of smoke erupts as the gears of the world turn. A tiny hand reaches out from the mist. Little Yu has devolved into her 5-year-old self, calling Gu'an Big Sis. She asks if she was cute as a kid, but Gu'an isn't buying it. Internally, she deadpanned, "Cuteness is not a substitute for height." Little Yu then starts bragging about her heroic deeds, from kindergarten. We jump back to a sunny playground where the rules of society were simple. It turns out Little Yu was a total menace, throwing hands with anyone who bullied her friends. She even lectured her teacher, claiming that if friends help each other, then beating up bullies is technically community service. Even back then, it was a completely one-sided beatdown. Little Yu flexes her kindergarten muscles, claiming she became a legend that day. When she asks Gu'an about her own childhood, the mood immediately takes a nosedive. A flashback reveals a sunset-soaked school trip where everyone is lining up for a photo. The camera lens captures a sea of faceless students, highlighting how isolated Gu'an felt. The photographer struggles to get the kids to behave. Little Gu'an stands there looking like she's at a funeral instead of a field trip. No matter how much the teacher begs for a smile, the kid just can't fake the vibe. Little Gu'an admits the trip was great, but her eyes say she'd rather be literally anywhere else. Gu'an isn't trying to hide her past. She's just stating the facts of her boring life. She knows the conversation always dies the moment she starts talking about herself. Internally, she sighed, "I'm basically a social dead end." Little Yu realizes they aren't close enough yet to unlock Gu'an's secret backstory, but she vows to keep trying. She's way too enthusiastic for a place that looks like a purple void. The duo realizes the starter room is totally empty and decides to explore. Little Yu pulls up a menu with countless other rooms. She decides to YOLO it and picks a random destination. Gu'an tries to warn her, but Little Yu thinks the mystery is part of the fun. They step onto a teleportation circle and are suddenly free-falling through a beautiful blue sky. After falling through the clouds, they see a lush green forest below. They stick the landing and Little Yu is hyped about the adrenaline rush. It looks like a peaceful woodland, but they seem to be alone. Little Yu starts hiking, enjoying the virtual nature. Suddenly, she stops and points toward the distance. Behind the trees, a massive lake comes into view. The place is crawling with people, or rather, anime girls. From girls chilling by a campfire to others literally sitting on a battle tank, the forest is a total weeb paradise. Gu'an looks around, feeling like she's walked into the wrong neighborhood. A hand sets down a can of soda as a local explains this is just a typical forest. One cosplayer asks what series Gu'an and Little Yu are from, assuming they're also cosplaying. Internally, Gu'an panicked. "I don't have a script for this." She admits she doesn't really watch anime, which is basically heresy in this room. Gu'an stares into the sky, feeling the weight of her lack of culture. But her awkward moment is cut short when she spots two girls having a very intense friendship moment behind a tree, leaving her completely stunned. Everyone knows Xinghuo's heart is on her sleeve, but Gu'an is still playing hard to get in the virtual world. The duo is currently rocking their cat and bunny girl avatars in an anime-inspired VR forest, looking like they just stepped out of a high-budget gacha game. As they stroll through the digital woods, Gu'an remains as stoic as ever, barely cracking a smile despite the vibrant scenery. The peaceful walk is cut short when a group of veteran players spots them and calls them out for being total newbies. A blonde player with major, mean girl energy tells them to stop, just standing around, and actually do something romantic since they're already in such a prime spot. Gu'an and Xinghuo are both caught off guard, staring back with buffering icons basically floating over their heads. Internally, Gu'an is hitting the panic button, immediately backing up and putting her guard up like she's about to enter a boss fight. Xinghuo can't help but laugh at how defensive her partner is getting over a little virtual social pressure. She teases Gu'an, noting that while Gu'an is trying to act cool, everyone can see right through Xinghuo's obvious feelings. Xinghuo admits the random player actually has a point. She gestures to the rest of the VR world, where literally everyone else is paired up and acting like they're in a rom-com. She asks Gu'an if she thinks two girls being together is somehow wrong. Gu'an tries to logic her way out of the awkwardness, claiming it's all just virtual models, and for all they know, those girls could be two dudes in real life. But Xinghuo isn't letting her off the hook that easily and suddenly closes the distance. She pulls Gu'an into a tight hug, demanding to know if this feels like just cosplay to her. Leaning in close, Xinghuo asks if Gu'an is truly unwilling to be with her, even if it's just for the sake of the game. This sends Gu'an into a deep spiral of self-reflection, wondering if unwilling is even the right word for what she's feeling. In a mental flashback, Gu'an remembers a mentor telling her that her struggle with writing isn't about skill, but a total lack of life experience. Gu'an wants to write a deep, gentle story about two souls staying together forever. The problem? She's been a total loner since she was a kid, so she has zero reference material for what togetherness actually looks like. The mentor basically tells her that if she refuses to write about anything else, she's going to have to go out and do some serious field research. This means she needs to gather materials by actually living the life she wants to write about. Back in the VR forest, the hug ends and Gu'an is left looking like a deer in headlights. She awkwardly apologizes, realizing that even if she tried to be energetic now, it would just feel fake and leave Xinghuo unsatisfied. Xinghuo pouts, feeling like she's accidentally pressuring Gu'an into a corner she's not ready for. But Gu'an has a sudden realization and tells Xinghuo she has a plan to fix their experience gap. The scene shifts from the digital sky to the real world as summer vacation officially begins. Most students are fleeing the dorms for the break. As outside room 326, the halls are starting to feel like a ghost town. And Gu'an's roommate is packed and ready to go, exhausted from the semester and hyped for 2 months of freedom. She drags her suitcase out, leaving Gu'an as the lone survivor of the dorm wing. Gu'an hops on a call with her sister, Little Yi, to check in. The Little Yi is annoyed that she's always the one stuck talking to their mom, accusing Gu'an of being a bad big sister. Gu'an just deadpans that she used to help Little Yi write all her essays, so they're basically even. Little Yi points out that Gu'an is going to be incredibly lonely living by herself for the next 2 months. But Gu'an reveals she's actually invited a friend over to keep her company. Right on cue, a shadow appears in the doorway. Xinghuo has arrived. Welcome to episode 31, Xinghuo's Small Desire. As students head home with their luggage, Gu'an is busy setting up a camcorder. As she starts recording Xinghuo the second she walks through the door. Xinghuo starts exploring the dorm like it's a 5-star hotel, impressed that Gu'an even has a private bathroom. She claims she's genuinely surprised because she always commuted to school and never knew what dorm life was like. Gu'an, ever the skeptic, asks why Xinghuo isn't going home to visit her parents over the summer. Xinghuo brushes it off, saying she already told them she's staying. Gu'an then peeks into the hallway, looking for the rest of Xinghuo's stuff. Xinghuo hits her with the classic "oops, I forgot my luggage" line and asks if she can just borrow Gu'an's clothes. You know, share a bed. Nice try. But Gu'an is 10 steps ahead and hands her a massive stack of fresh linens. She's already prepared towels, clothes, and bedding for a guest. She points to the empty roommate's bed, making it very clear that they will be sleeping in separate bunks. As Xinghuo pouts, her grand plan for a romantic summer sleepover getting completely shut down by Gu'an's preparedness. Internally, Xinghuo realizes that since the VR incident, Gu'an's guard is up higher than ever, meaning she'll have to be extra sneaky with her next moves. Gu'an is still treating this like a documentary, keeping the camera rolling as Xinghuo wanders around. Xinghuo is confused by the constant filming, but Gu'an insists it's all for the research. Xinghuo struggles to climb up into the top bunk, looking like she's never seen a ladder in her life. She complains that it's heavy and difficult, trying to bait Gu'an into helping her or letting her sleep on the bottom. After finally making it up, a panting Xinghuo realizes this is all just to help Gu and write her godly film script. Gu'an explains that the original story was about childhood friends who had a very realistic, dull relationship. We see a glimpse of the characters in Gu'an's head, a quiet pair walking to school together. Gu'an admits she's not an expert in these kinds of common, everyday bonds. She looks at Xinghuo's dazzling face and notes that someone as bright as her probably doesn't belong to just one person. Xinghuo is stunned, but Gu'an just continues, saying they need to use this time to practice and test the waters. Xinghuo is totally down for whatever practice Gu'an has in mind. Gu'an sits at her desk, reviewing the footage and trying to channel feelings from 10 years ago. She pulls out a printed daily schedule that looks more like a military boot camp than a summer break. Xinghuo stares at the schedule, her brain probably short-circuiting at the lack of cuddle time on the list. Gu'an tells her there's no time to lose, and they need to start the research immediately. Xinghuo asks what's up, expecting maybe a trip to the park or a cafe. But Gu'an has peaked as a killjoy, because the vacation practice is happening in a completely empty, boring classroom. Gu'an is a literal slave to her craft, waking up at the crack of dawn to start her research. As she throws open the curtains to let the blinding morning sun into the empty classroom, Xinghuo is immediately caught in 4K by the camera lens, looking completely blindsided by the early start. She blushes, wondering what kind of weird high school roleplay and has planned for them today. Gu'an doesn't say a word and just mashes the projector remote. Suddenly, a dry high school history lecture starts playing on the big screen, leaving Xinghuo totally confused. Gu'an sits down and explains that since their script characters are high schoolers, they need to live the actual experience. Xinghuo pouts, thinking field research would be way more exciting than a history lesson. But Gu'an shakes her head, explaining that most teen dramas focus on the wrong things. They usually show nothing but sports festivals and soccer matches. Or they're filled with cliché singing competitions and student council drama. But the reality of high school is 80% just sitting in a hard chair and suffering through boring lectures. Xinghuo decides to lean into it and promises to channel her inner teen. She gives a confident whew and tries to get into character. 5 minutes in, and they're staring at walls of text about Dante and the Renaissance. Gu'an is locked in, looking like the ultimate model student. She is the definition of studious, barely even blinking. Xinghuo immediately gets bored and tries to get her attention by tossing a crumpled paper ball. Gu'an just ignores the projectile and keeps her eyes glued to the textbook. Finally, Gu'an finds a note that says, "Read the slip of paper. I threw it at you." Internally, she sighed. Is she actually 5 years old? 2 minutes later, Gu'an checks on her research subject again. Xinghuo looks like she's actually writing something important for once. Gu'an watches her closely, hoping for a genuine emotional breakthrough. Turns out, the breakthrough was just Xinghuo being a total menace. She excitedly shows off her work to Gu'an with a huge grin. She just drew cat ears and glasses over a historical figure in the textbook. Gu'an tells her to stop vandalizing history, but 10 minutes later, the inevitable happens. Xinghuo is officially out of commission, face planted on the desk. She's snoring away while the camera continues to roll, capturing her failure. She's even mumbling in her sleep about bosses and weird spices, totally lost in dreamland. They finally leave the building as the sun starts to set over the campus. Xinghuo stretches and blames the teacher's hypnotizing voice for her nap. In their chibu forms, Xinghuo complains that Gu'an was way too mean for filming her while she was drooling. Gu'an just sighs, reminding her that she was supposed to act like a normal student. Xinghuo admits that sleeping through class was actually her normal back in the day. Gu'an is low-key impressed she even managed to get into university with those habits. Xinghuo is amazed that Gu'an could concentrate even when she was being a distraction. Gu'an claims she was actually very relaxed during the whole session. But internally, she admits that her focus has been slipping much more than usual. Her eyes keep drifting away from her work and toward her friend. She realizes that no matter what she's doing, her line of sight is always drawn to Xinghuo. Xinghuo thinks the day is finally over, but Gu'an is just getting started. She drops a massive stack of books on the desk for the next phase of research. It's time for episode 33 and the ultimate to-do list. First up, homework together at night, which involves Gu'an immediately confiscating Xinghuo's phone. Checkmark number 1 is complete. Next on the list, take her to school. Xinghuo looks concerned as she rushes down the stairs to meet her ride. Gu'an is waiting at the bottom with a vintage bicycle. She pedals like she's trying to win a gold medal. Xinghuo is absolutely terrified as they zoom through the streets. This bike feels like a literal motorcycle in Gu'an's hands. Checkmark 2 is done. Then comes the clean the classroom together phase. Gu'an is aggressively erasing the chalkboard to perfection. She looks over to see how her partner is handling the manual labor. Xinghuo is sweeping the floor, looking like a total angel. Hey psych, she's actually just slacking off and scrolling on her phone while leaning on the broom. Gu'an immediately snatches the broom away to finish the job herself. She finishes the cleaning with a tired phew. The to-do list is finally looking complete for the day. Later that night, Gu'an is grinding away at her keyboard. She finally finishes the script draft and lets out a long breath. No matter how she tries to phrase it, this summer research has been a lot. She relaxes with a hot cup of coffee to clear her head. Xinghuo pops up behind her, thanking her for everything. She teases Gu'an, saying her loud typing was keeping her awake. But then she gets serious, admitting she couldn't fall asleep while Gu'an was still working. She tells Gu'an to hurry up and get some rest too. But Gu'an sets a strict boundary, making it clear that sleeping in the same bed means strictly sleeping. They both lay down, but the air is thick with awkward tension. Gu'an stares into the dark, unable to shut her brain off. The AC hums in the background as Xinghuo breaks the silence. She asks why Gu'an suddenly agreed to share a bed tonight. Gu'an claims she didn't agree, she just thought bickering about it would be too exhausting. Internally, she scoffed. It's called a tactical surrender, buddy. Xinghuo just gives a soft, is that so? Gu'an tells her to just shut up and sleep. Xinghuo finally agrees and drifts off. Morning rolls around and the sun is shining through the window. Xinghuo is getting ready while Gu'an walks in looking like she barely slept. Xinghuo asks if she's feeling sick or just tired. Gu'an explains that she sent the draft to the director this morning, but hasn't heard back, as she's worried the director found too many problems with the script. Suddenly, her phone starts buzzing on the table. It's Senior Sihui calling. Gu'an picks up, her heart probably doing backflips, as the director prepares to give her the final verdict. Gu'an is busy playing cameraman, capturing every moment of their simulated school life to ensure the footage is top tier. She adjusts her gear, making sure the audio from her earbuds is crisp so she doesn't miss a single word. Standing on the balcony under the moonlight, she looks like a total pro. Even if she's just trying to keep the script research on track. Suddenly, Senior Sihui appears looking more serious than usual, asking if she has arrived yet. Gu'an promises to keep things professional, but Sihui has a weird request. She needs Gu'an to be brutally honest about everything Xinghuo says. The director is clearly going through an existential crisis while the spotlight of the moon hangs over them. Sihui is definitely feeling blindsided, questioning why Xinghuo didn't just contact her directly instead of going through Gu'an. She drops the big question, wondering if the two of them have gotten suspiciously close lately. Xinghuo doesn't even try to hide it, admitting they've been joined at the hip for the last few days of research. Gu'an keeps the camera rolling while Xinghuo casually drops the bombshell that they've basically been eating at the same table and sleeping together. Internally, Gu'an is probably short-circuiting, but Sihui just wants to know why that matters when their own friendship is supposed to be unshakable. Sihui pivots the conversation, asking Xinghuo if she remembers the last time they sat in a spot like this. A soccer ball rolls across the track as they dive into the past. It was during the fitness test in their sophomore year that the vibes started to shift. While everyone else was panicking during 9 p.m. long-distance practice, Sihui was already feeling the pressure. Looking back, she realizes that even then, she was already falling behind the rest of the pack. Xinghuo looks completely caught off guard by this sudden confession of insecurity. She tries to protest, but Sihui is already spiraling into a deep monologue. Sitting on the railing, Sihui reflects on how much has changed since those 2 days ago. The scene shifts to a bustling street where the old gang used to hang out. Even the manager, Sumyu, has been grinding, setting the location at their old stomping grounds. Gu'an watches through the lens, feeling the heavy weight of the director's words. Sihui points out that the social polarization among their friends is becoming impossible to ignore. Their friend the prince is now a high-flying CEO, living a disciplined, luxurious life that most people can only dream of. Then there's Sis Hong, who has basically become the light of the people, achieving every filmmaker's dream with ease. Even Yuxin is a contracted artist, famous among thousands and living in a completely different world. In a memory, Xinghuo and Sihui share a snack, but the energy is totally different now. Yuxin gets swamped by a fan asking for a picture, proving she's reached true celebrity status. Sihui feels like she's been living in a bubble, thinking she was being ignored when she was actually just failing to communicate. She forces a smile, but it's clear her confidence is in the gutter. The resi light blinks as Sihui's face drops into pure sadness. She admits she can no longer lie to herself about where she stands. To her, they are no longer in the same world, and maybe they never were to begin with. She looks at Gu'an's script and realizes the gap in talent is even wider than she feared. Seeing the high-budget productions and the skill of Sis Hong, Sihui feels like even 10 versions of herself couldn't compete. She remembers being the one sitting on the sidelines, just a background character in everyone else's highlight reel. She thought writing was her one true talent, the godly work she spent months perfecting. Her hand trembles as she grips the railing, the weight of her perceived failure finally breaking her. Losing to a junior like Gu'an, who only took a week to write a masterpiece, makes her feel like she has nothing left to offer. Gu'an stands there, feeling like a total villain for being too good at her job. Internally, she's kicking herself. I was so focused on fixing other people's drama that I totally ignored the director's feelings. But just as the mood hits rock bottom, Xinghuo shouts that she's dead wrong. Xinghuo steps up with massive main character energy. We flash back 3 years to a night that looked a lot like this one, back at the school. The whole squad is in costume, looking like they stepped off a professional movie set. The drama club was celebrating a win for their performance about internship struggles. Xinghuo, dressed as a princess, wasn't about to let a little mistake ruin the victory. Even when a teammate was crying over a misread line, the group was still holding it together. Xinghuo watched them from the distance, her shadow looming over the scene. She walked toward the group, her presence commanding everyone's attention. She looked down at them, her eyes hidden behind her glasses. But instead of a lecture, she burst out laughing, saying the performance was absolutely hilarious. She pointed out how funny it was when they fought over the money, completely flipping the script on the gloomy mood. The screenwriter was stunned, but Sihui was just happy to have lost to someone so talented. She had total faith in her actresses, even when things didn't go perfectly. She promised that once their real godly film came out, the whole world would be at a loss for words. Back in the present, Xinghuo grips the railing, ready to drop some truth bombs. She hops down, her feet hitting the grass with a solid thud. With a wink, she tells the director that she is the only reason the film club even exists. Sihui is skeptical, claiming she has no talent compared to the others. But Xinghuo insists she has the one thing everyone else is missing. Reaching out a hand, she prepares to explain the secret sauce. It's not about money, fame, or even raw skill. It's pure, unadulterated passion for the beautiful things in life. Sumu is too busy chasing logic and business deals to just enjoy the art. Sishong is a great creator, but her social standing forces her to consider more than just the story. As for Xinghuo herself, she's got her own distractions. None of them are capable of simply loving something with their whole hearts anymore. Only the director can throw away every distraction and just feel the raw emotion of a story. Xinghuo reminds her of the first time she read Gu'an's script. Sihui remembers it vividly, the feeling of the words hitting her. She was crying her eyes out, totally immersed in the world Gu'an created. She was geeking out over the ship and the perfect ending they deserved. She gets so hyped up that she loses her balance and starts to fall off the railing. Gu'an watches the chaos from the distance, witnessing the power of friendship clutch up in real time. Xinghuo reaches out just in time, grabbing her before she can hit the ground. They share a moment that looks straight out of a romance manga, suspended in the air. Xinghuo tells her she's the kind of director who infects everyone around her with enthusiasm. Sihui finally snaps out of her funk, realizing she was worrying about irrelevant things. She's back in the game, shouting that it would be a crime not to film such a wonderful script. She starts running across the field, her shadow stretching out behind her. She's ready to use everything she's ever learned to produce the ultimate version of their godly film. With a fist pumped in the air, she's more motivated than ever to get to work. Gu'an just smiles, even though her earbuds are still in and she probably missed half the dialogue. They head back to the track. The energy totally shifted from depression to hype. Gu'an looks at Xinghuo, her mind racing with new questions. Xinghuo asks what's up, totally oblivious to the depth of Gu'an's observation. Internally, Gu'an notes that Xinghuo analyzed everyone else to describe the director's heart. But she completely left herself out of the equation. Gu'an stares at her, realizing Xinghuo is the one who ignores logic and reasoning the most. She looks at her friend, wondering what's really going on behind that smile. Xinghuo is still fighting for something, defending a dream that Gu'an is only just beginning to understand. The sun rises over the school dorms as another day of research kicks off. Inside, Xinghuo is still completely dead to the world, buried under her covers. Gu'an decides to be a total bro and tells her to catch some extra zizzias while she handles things. She quietly navigates the ladder, trying her best not to trigger any noise traps. Grabbing her umbrella, she prepares to brave the gloomy weather outside. With a final look back and a promise to return soon, she heads out. The dorm room stays silent, leaving the research subject to her dreams. Outside, a light drizzle coats the single dorm buildings, setting a majorly moody vibe. Meanwhile, Yuxin is busy with cores, holding a cleaning rod like it's a legendary weapon. She stares out at the rain, looking like she's trapped in a sad indie movie. Internally, she's likely thinking, great, another day of this nonsense. The atmosphere is so tense you could practically see the sparks flying. The scene shifts to a dojo where a Buddhist rite is underway amidst the rain. Inside, Gu'an and Senior Sumu are prepping for a showdown, the air thick with unsaid questions. Gu'an realizes her original plan to track down Yuxin was just the tip of the iceberg. She starts tying her kendo gear, locking into serious mode. Behind the mask, her eyes are sharp, ready to finally get some real answers. The two take their positions, the wooden floorboards creaking under the weight of the moment. In a quick flashback, director Sihui arrives at Yuxin's place with a bright smile. Yuxin doesn't look amused, clearly over whatever drama is being pitched. Sihui holds up an envelope, claiming they're just there to help, but Yuxin isn't buying it. Back in the present, Sumu questions if Gu'an's heart is really in this fight. She challenges the writer, asking if she's truly putting her soul into the script or just playing around. Gu'an stands her ground, ready to prove she's not just some amateur. The sparring begins, and the two exchange blows in a flurry of motion. Sumu presses her, asking if the real reason she's cooperating is just to help Xinghuo, and stays silent, letting her sword do the talking. So, with a loud shout, they clash again, the intensity of the duel hitting a fever pitch. Sumu's experience is clear as she maintains a suffocating pressure. Gu'an is definitely feeling the heat, struggling to keep up with the senior's pace. They lock swords, neither side willing to back down an inch. Sumu admits she didn't expect Gu'an to be this talented at kendo. However, she points out that there are questions everyone is avoiding, which is stalling the research. She knows Yuxin admires Gu'an, but she's more interested in Gu'an's actual intentions. Though Gu'an's eyes widen as Sumu targets her true feelings. With another explosive movement, Gu'an goes on the offensive. They clash again, the impact echoing through the quiet dojo. Gu'an recalls a time she tried to play a game with Xinghuo, only to be shut down with straight no's. Internally, Gu'an is frustrated, thinking, how is she so hard to read? She demands to know why Sumu is staying silent while everyone else is in pain. The two continue their high-speed dance, wooden swords blurring in the air, and Gu'an screams for an answer, pouring all her pent-up frustration into one final strike. Sumu is caught off guard by the sheer raw emotion behind the attack. Their swords lock one last time as the tension reaches its breaking point. With a decisive strike to the head, the duel reaches its climax. Sumu stands still, acknowledging the hit. She wonders if things are really as simple as Gu'an makes them out to be. Sumu finally admits defeat, calling out Ippon as she lowers her guard. Gu'an is breathing hard, having successfully forced the senior to show her true colors. She removes her helmet, hoping Xinghuo never has to see her looking this rag. Back in the other room, Xinghuo sits patiently, waiting for Yuxin to finish reading. The script hits home hard, leaving Yuxin in tears as the full story finally unfolds. In another flashback, we see Mu delivering a package to a very exhausted Yuxin. Yuxin looks completely blindsided by the sudden home delivery. She's stunned that a senior would personally bring her something like this. Sumu just gives her a sparkling, top-tier senior smile. The scene shifts to the two walking along a scenic bridge. Sumu laughs it off, telling Yuxin not to worry about the extra effort. She claims it was just a matter of fate that the package ended up with her. Yuxin follows behind, looking small and unsure of herself. Sumu asks her how she's feeling after being in the club for a few months. Yuxin gets super flustered, blushing like a protagonist in a romance manga. She stammers out that everyone is talented and nice, clearly trying to be as polite as possible. Sumu tells her there's no need to be so formal, but Yuxin is still playing it safe. Yuxin then asks if Sumu was the one who fought for her to join after she failed the first interview. Sumu plays it cool, scratching her head and saying it wasn't quite like that. She claims she just saw some hidden potential and the others eventually agreed. Seeing Yuxin now, Sumu is convinced she made the right call. Yuxin looks down, feeling unworthy of the praise. Sumu points out a poster on the wall, showing off the club's hard work. The poster features a grand, fantasy-style play that looks absolutely epic. Yuxin notes that the promoter really put her heart into the marketing. Sumu then mentions that Yuxin is slated to appear in the next play and asks what character she'd like to be. Yuxin goes quiet, her face shadowed by deep thoughts. She finally admits she wants to play someone like Senior Xinghuo. Looking at the poster of Xinghuo in her costume, Yuxin is captivated. She wants to be someone who radiates light and captures everyone's attention. She believes that if she can do that, she'll finally have the right to stand beside them. Sumu watches her, realizing that Yuxin is trying to force herself into a mold that doesn't fit. She realizes Yuxin has been acting like a proper version of Xinghuo this whole time. Back at the dojo, Sumu explains that Yuxin is exceptionally sensitive. She couldn't tell Yuxin to just be yourself, because Yuxin would have seen it as pity. Internally, Sumu was stuck, unable to bridge the gap without hurting her. Sumu admits she didn't want to finish the godly film, because she hated the expression Yuxin made while trying to be someone else. She had prepared to confess her true intentions, but everything changed when the real Xinghuo showed up. Sumu went silent, watching as Yuxin's misconceptions grew and she became more and more like a fake Xinghuo. She admits her failure, not knowing how to fix the mess she helped create. Gu'an realizes that everyone already knew the truth, even years ago. Sihui explains that they knew the personalities involved too well, and on the day of the original shoot, Xinghuo had pulled an all-nighter to write a new ending, but she forgot the papers at home. Yuxin is hit with the realization that everything that happened back then was because of her. Sihui grabs her shoulders, telling her she can't think like that anymore. She reveals that Xinghuo's real wish was to change the story's ending to give them both a new life. Yuxin is left speechless, tears streaming down her face. Back at the dojo, Sumu smiles sadly, realizing she's been outplayed by everyone's hidden kindness. She scoffs at the idea that Xinghuo was just fooling around all this time. Xinghuo was actually the most cunning of them all, disguising her deep intentions with a goofy exterior. Sumu and Yuxin are both realized to be natural-born actresses, hiding their true selves. Sumu officially admits her loss, realizing she can't beat that level of sincerity. However, she tells Gu'an that there's one thing the writer is still getting wrong. Gu'an is confused, asking what she missed. Sumu points out that Gu'an keeps saying a simple line can solve everything. As she leans in with a smirk, asking Gu'an why, if it's so simple, she hasn't said her simple line yet. Gu'an immediately short-circuits, her face turning bright red as she realizes she's been caught in 4K. Internally, she screams, "I've been exposed." After all the kendo drama and emotional baggage, Gu'an and Xinghuo are finally getting some much-needed downtime. Xinghuo is out a light, but Gu'an is right there the second she starts to stir. She's tucked in tight, looking like she's trying to set a world record for the longest nap in history. Xinghuo finally sits up, yawning like a cat while Gu'an just watches from the edge of the bed. Gu'an checks her phone, casually dropping the bombshell that it's already late. Xinghuo absolutely loses it when she realizes it's 8 p.m., wondering how she managed to hibernate for that many hours. Gu'an points out the rain has finally stopped, but Xinghuo is too busy being blindsided by her own messed-up internal clock. She demands to know why Gu'an didn't wake her up sooner. Gu'an jokes that she looked too peaceful, probably dreaming about a massive plate of snacks. Internally, Gu'an is actually worried because Xinghuo has been sleeping way more than usual lately. She wonders if this is some weird side effect of Xinghuo's supernatural existence, which is a major death flag in any other story. Xinghuo gets serious for a second, catching Gu'an totally off guard. She admits that she used to be terrified of falling asleep, fearing she'd wake up back in the past where she was all alone. But now, she's got zero worries because she knows Gu'an will always be there, even if she has to wait a bit for her to return. Gu'an plays it cool, asking if that's her secret to sleeping like a rock every night. Xinghuo just smiles, telling her not to have high expectations, since this whole thing feels like an optional side mission she could drop at any time. Gu'an decides they need some fresh air and suggests a morning walk to soak up some sun. Xinghuo doesn't say no, but she's curious about what Gu'an is really plotting. Gu'an just wants to rest after an exhausting day, but Xinghuo is already in party mode now that she's fully charged. They keep the banter going, nearly toppling the bed in the process. The next morning is bright and sunny, the perfect day for a casual campus stroll. Xinghuo stretches out her arms, feeling refreshed for the first time in ages. She's looking way too energetic for someone who was a zombie just 12 hours ago. She suggests they go hang out somewhere fun, but Gu'an is leaning towards staying on campus. Gu'an spots something in the distance and realizes the squad is already in position. Xinghuo is totally confused until she catches a glimpse of a familiar face. It's the director, waving them down like she's been camping out there all morning. She tells them she'll wait in the club room and disappears up the stairs. Gu'an drags a bewildered Xinghuo along, telling her they'll find out the truth if they just keep moving. They head up the steps, the atmosphere getting more nostalgic with every floor. Xinghuo stops suddenly, catching a familiar scent lingering in the hallway. It's Xizhong casually smoking and looking like she owns the place. Xinghuo is totally lost, asking Gu'an what on earth is going on. Gu'an explains that Xizhong is back, but the real mystery is why everyone is suddenly gathering here. They reach the door, and Gu'an hints that there might be a massive surprise waiting behind it. She slowly pushes the door open, letting Xinghuo take the lead. Inside, the director is grinning like she just pulled off the heist of the century. She welcomes them back with a literal sparkle in her eye. Someone is over by the window, quietly tending to the plants. It's Sumu and Yuxin, looking like they never left. Xinghuo is at a total loss for words, seeing the whole gang back together in one room. Sumu looks sharp as ever, announcing that they're all here to finally finish the godly film. The director flips her fan open, officially declaring that the team is in position. The actresses are ready, and the production is back on track. Yuxin looks at Xinghuo, clearly ready to face her past and make things right. Xizhong steps in, offering to handle the executive producer duties while leaving the cameras to Gu'an. Sumu is looking dapper, ready to get down to serious business. She emphasizes that finishing this film isn't just one person's wish anymore, it's a goal for all of them. Gu'an gives a knowing smile, ready to finish what they started together. So the whole group stands together, finally united after all the drama. The director and Yuxin share a look, realizing how far they've actually come. Even the usually stoic Xizhong is feeling the wholesome vibes. The director whispers to Gu'an, asking how Xinghuo is handling the shock of the reunion. Xinghuo is actually overwhelmed, noting that this kind of scene used to be common, but now it feels special. Suddenly, she starts tearing up, unable to stop the waterworks from spilling over. A framed photo on the desk shows the group in happier times, a reminder of the bond they share. Xinghuo tries to hide her face, but she's caught in 4K by the whole room. She starts sobbing, making the director freak out in surprise. Xinghuo looks like a kicked puppy, her eyes red as she tries to compose herself. Gu'an just watches with a smirk, while Xinghuo tries to defend her dignity. Xizhong notes that this is the first time she's ever seen Xinghuo actually show this much emotion. The director decides these are definitely tears of being moved and tries to comfort her. Gu'an decides to slip away to let the old friends catch up, acting as a messenger for them. But before she can make her escape, Xinghuo grabs her hand in a death grip. She tells Gu, and she isn't allowed to leave the room. Xinghuo reminds her that Sishong already made the executive decision. She gives Gu'an a bright, determined look that says there's no escaping. Since the script is rewritten and Gu'an is the director now, she's officially stuck with the club for good. Internally, Gu'an realizes she's been forced into being a permanent companion. The group piles onto the couch, welcoming Gu'an as the newest member of their dysfunctional family. Gu'an realizes she's being messed with and pulls out her phone for an emergency plan B. She starts typing away, feeling totally betrayed by her so-called friends. Sumu and the others watch her, noting that she's surprisingly talented at multitasking under pressure. Sumu calls Xinghuo a stubborn monkey who finally met her match in Gu'an. Sishong checks her own phone, probably seeing Gu'an's frantic messages for help. Xinghuo jokes that when Gu'an starts preaching, she reminds her of a legendary monk. They start assigning roles from Journey to the West, calling the director a pig and Sumu a sand demon. Yuxin can't help but laugh at the chaos, while Sumu tries to maintain her dignity. The whole room is filled with laughter, the tension from the past finally gone. Later that night, we see a group chat titled Calming Xinghuo, where the squad is praising Gu'an's on-handed typing skills. Gu'an is chilling in her pajamas, reading the messages with a tired smile. She types out a response, explaining how her mom forced her to learn all sorts of survival skills. Suddenly, Xinghuo calls out to her from the bathroom. She asks Gu'an to grab her a towel since she totally forgot one before hopping in. Gu'an grabs the towel and heads over, keeping things casual and helpful. But as she hands it through the door, she gets blindsided and pulled forward. The bathroom is full of steam, and Gu'an's vision is getting blurry. The shower is still running, creating a total mood in the small space. Gu'an ends up getting soaked, wondering what on earth Xinghuo is thinking. Xinghuo pulls her into a tight hug, whispering that she might say something totally out of character. Xinghuo is finally back in her signature school uniform, and honestly, the nostalgia is hitting hard. She strikes a classic pose for the camera, feeling like a total idol. Internally, she's vibing, thinking about how this outfit brings everything full circle. Gu'an zooms in, capturing that main character spark in Xinghuo's eyes. It hits her this is exactly how they looked when they first met. Gu'an flashes back to that day. She was just a girl asked to clean a room, having no clue her life was about to become a rom-com. Xinghuo is shook when she realizes their meeting was just a massive coincidence. Gu'an blushes, admitting she has no idea where she'd be if she hadn't run into her. Internally, she admitted, life would be a total snooze fest without you. She'd probably still be living that NPC life. Before Xinghuo, Gu'an just went with the flow, thinking everything was it should be. But now she's actually learned what it means to be bored and how to fix it. Xinghuo snaps her out of it, asking if she's really going to keep filming with that ancient relic of a camera. Gu'an explains that while it's objectively a dinosaur that should have been retired years ago, she can't let it go. Because of its sentimental value, she's going to keep using it until the wheels fall off. Xinghuo is touched by the sentiment. She laughs, telling Gu'an that they're starting to sound exactly alike. And looks at her crew, realizing she's dragging these successful people back into her ivory tower just for fun. Xinghuo gets a bit deep, worrying that she's actually the one dragging everyone down. Gu'an's face drops as she hears the self-doubt. Xinghuo quickly waves it off with a grin, claiming she was just rambling. Gu'an clenches her fist, clearly not buying the I'm fine act. Xinghuo notices the tension and tries to backtrack. Gu'an stares her down with a look that says, don't even try it. Xinghuo panics, thinking she actually made Gu'an angry. She immediately jumps into a back hug, begging for forgiveness and promising never to say it again. Gu'an finally breaks the silence, asking if they should have rice omelets or soup for lunch, as Xinghuo's mood flips instantly at the mention of snow pea soup. She's ready to sprint to the soup cart outside school, completely forgetting the drama. The sun is shining bright as the crew gets back to work on the actual movie. The school building looks like the perfect backdrop for their masterpiece. Sumu walks through the hall, getting into character with a paper plane in hand. The details on the props are surprisingly high quality. She takes her seat and the scene begins. Yuxin approaches, handing over a bento box with a shy look. She claims she made too much and didn't want to throw it out, which is the oldest trick in the book. Sumu opens the lid, expecting a casual meal. Instead, she finds a gourmet spread that looks like it belongs in a five-star restaurant. Suddenly, the director screams, "Cute!" loud enough to break glass. She storms over, looking like she's about to lose her mind. She clarifies that the actors aren't the problem, so they can stop shaking. No, the issue is much more delicious. Gu'an asks if she's the one who messed up the shot. The director shoots that down immediately. She takes a deep breath, trying to contain her inner perfectionist. She points a finger at the bento box like it's a criminal caught in 4K. Looking at the production notes, things are getting complicated. The director, declares that the bento box is wrong. Yuxin and Sumu are completely blindsided. Sumu even defends it, saying it smells amazing. Gu'an starts sweating, realizing the director is on a warpath. Xinghuo, however, starts laughing her head off. She points at Gu'an, knowing she's the one who rewrote the script to be super specific. Gu'an explains the problem. The characters are childhood sweethearts who have zero cooking experience, and making something this delicious completely ruins the immersion. The director agrees the food needs to taste like trash, so the protagonist's good review feels even sweeter. As Gu'an is internally screaming, I can't tell if she's a genius or just totally extra. Yuxin blushes, admitting she was the one who cooked the masterpiece. Sumu tries to smooth things over, saying she'll eat Yuxin's real cooking many times in the future. She promises to handle whatever suspicious food they throw at her for the sake of the craft. The director sighs, wondering where they can find someone who cooks badly enough to fit the role. Siwi takes a puff of her cigarette and suggests Xinghuo is the perfect candidate. The entire room goes cold as they remember Xinghuo's legendary kitchen nightmares. Xinghuo pouts, telling Gu'an not to believe the haters. She claims she just has a heavy hand with the spices sometimes. Gu'an's expression says it all. She's terrified. Xinghuo leans in close, asking if Gu'an wants to be her first taste tester. Her eyes are literally sparkling with chaotic energy. Gu'an gives a very hesitant yeah. Xinghuo decides that once the film is a wrap, she's cooking a massive celebration feast for everyone. Gu'an's soul basically leaves her body at the thought. Even the local cats wouldn't survive that meal. Internally, Gu'an noted, at least she can still interact with objects, even if it's to turn them into poison. Sihui puts a hand on Sumi's shoulder, giving the green light, although the crew is officially back in sync. Yuxin asks what the plan is for the rest of the day. Sumu decides to take one for the team and eat the bento so it doesn't go to waste. Yuxin is touched, telling her to hurry up so they can keep filming. Gu'an watches them with a soft smile, happy to see the team united. As night falls over the city, the atmosphere shifts. The dorms are quiet, but Gu'an is still wide awake. She's out on the balcony taking a call while Xinghuo mumbles about spices in her sleep. Gu'an paces around in her slippers, trying to clear her head. She's talking to her mentor, who asks how things are going. She explains that the filming is fine, but the performance of it all is the real challenge. Her mentor is surprised she's even asking for advice. Gu'an finally drops the big question then bugging her. She asks, if you're 2/3 of the way through a case, and you realize the answer isn't what you wanted, would you still keep investigating? The answer is simple: you go until the very end. Gu'an walks back into the room, the moon hanging heavy over her, as she looks genuinely troubled by the path ahead. The mentor tells her she needs to understand a hard truth. Sometimes it isn't just about her, it's about her attitude toward the outcome. Elsewhere, Sumu is grinding on a treadmill, pushing her limits. Xinghuo is actually in the kitchen, trying to improve her cooking for the team. The director is pulling a classic all-nighter, fueled by energy drinks to get the edit right. Even Siwi is managing the team long distance, not letting a single detail slip. Gu'an looks at Xinghuo sleeping peacefully, knowing what she has to do. As she realizes that even if the truth makes her sad, it's the only correct choice. As she stares at the endless stars, she realizes that real communication is the final boss. The final edit of the godly film starts rolling, showing the protagonist finally sensing a warm energy from someone close to him. He's torn because he still can't let go of the girl in the attic, or more specifically, the absolute drama of it all. He realizes this kind of cinematic feeling only happens once in a lifetime, as he looks back at her. The news drops that she's been invited across the Pacific for her talent and won't be around come fall. The girls stand together in a bittersweet moment, realizing a team can always find a replacement, but memories are forever. For the protagonist, it isn't just about choosing a girl. It's a choice between staying in a dream or finally waking up. The story reaches its end, but in the real world, things are just getting started at the beach. Gu'an and Xinghuo are caught in 4K sprinting down the stairs because they both managed to oversleep. Gu'an admits her brain has been short-circuiting with too many thoughts lately, leading to some late nights. They scramble out the door, with Xinghuo desperately yelling for her friend to wait up. Standing outside, they realize they're penniless in the time department and check for a taxi. But the wait times are looking grim. Suddenly, Xinghuo spots some bikes and decides it's time to go full Tour de France. She argues that since they aren't far from the sea, pedaling might actually be faster than waiting for a driver. Gu'an gets a massive wave of déjà vu, remembering another morning of running late. She tries to tell Xinghuo to slow down, but the girl is already halfway down the block. Internally, Gu'an panicked. This is exactly how it started last time. They pedal like their lives depend on it, weaving through the morning streets. Xinghuo starts feeling the guilt, apologizing because the whole rest shooting mess was her idea, and everyone is sacrificing their sleep for her. Gu'an just smiles, telling her not to worry, because everyone has their own reasons for being part of this journey. As they zoom past a convex mirror, Gu'an reassures her that the team isn't just doing this as a favor. Xinghuo gets all emotional, claiming Gu'an is the only one who truly spoils her. As she flashes a blindingly bright smile, looking genuinely happy. But the vibe is instantly killed when a car blurs past them way too close for comfort. The reflection in the car window shows just how close they came to a disaster. Xinghuo looks completely blindsided, her face going pale as she processes the near miss. They both skid to a halt on the sidewalk, hearts pounding. Gu'an stares at her friend, sensing the atmosphere has shifted into something heavy. She cautiously asks if Xinghuo is actually all right. Xinghuo looks down at her hands, trembling as she insists she wasn't speeding or even in the car lane. Gu'an covers her mouth, realizing just how much this rattled the girl. Xinghuo looks up with terrifyingly sad eyes, asking if she did anything wrong. Gu'an immediately pulls her into a hug, comforting her and blaming the crazy driver for the scare. Xinghuo finally relaxes, glad she wasn't the only one feeling like she'd seen a ghost. They finally make it to the set, throwing out peace signs and apologies for the delay. Xinghuo is confused why the beach is so empty and quiet for once. It turns out the director and Sumu were playing 4D chess and predicted the crowd issues. Oh, they set up a fake lottery event at the entrance to keep all the extras and tourists busy elsewhere. The director is hyped up, waving her script and declaring that victory is right in front of them. She is absolutely losing it with excitement, ready to wrap this project. She tells the duo to stop acting like they just rolled out of bed and to fix their clothes. Xinghuo gets into character instantly, while Gu'an gets behind the camera, ready to capture the magic. The director notes that Xinghuo's acting skills have leveled up now, that she isn't constantly worrying about everyone else. The final scene kicks off with a beautiful shot of the ocean waves. On camera, the male lead and Sumu share a deep, scripted moment. The camera pans down to their feet in the sand as the tension builds. Sumu's character laments being a mediocre supporting character in someone else's story. The lead shuts that down immediately, telling her she's been a main fixture for 10 years. She blushes when he mentions her cooking, trying to claim her talent was just an accident. He leans in close, telling her that she might perceive things differently than they actually are. He finally apologizes for keeping her waiting for so long, delivering a top-tier confession. Gu'an watches through the lens, impressed that Sumu managed to confess while staying perfectly in character. The rest of the crew is grinning, feeling like everything is finally going according to plan. The next part of the scene involves the young girl character. Here, the actors look at a prop drawing of the protagonist. It's a sketch meant to represent a lasting memory. The protagonist looks back at the image, realizing the weight of their connection. High up on the cliff, Xinghuo shouts out her lines to the world. She tells him she's memorized his face so well that time won't ever erase it. The narration explains that she doesn't need him anymore, allowing the normal person to return to reality. She releases a swarm of paper airplanes into the sky, symbolizing the end of their youth and the closing of the curtain. However, the mood breaks when Gu'an mentions she's the only one who can actually see the planes from her angle. The crew notices Gu'an has gone completely silent, her expression turning into a mask of pure horror. As she starts sweating, her eyes glued to the viewfinder. Through the camera, she sees the paper planes aren't falling, they're frozen in midair, and Xinghuo is panicking. Xinghuo is desperately trying to throw the planes, but she can't even lift them, as if they weigh a ton. Gu'an ditches her post and sprints toward the cliff to help her. She looks up, her face pale as she realizes the supernatural glitches are getting out of control. Internally, she screamed, if her wish doesn't come true, everything breaks. She remembers Xinghuo's smile from earlier. And all the hard work they put into this film, only for it to potentially end in disaster. Suddenly, a violent wind erupts from the sea, despite the sun being out. The crew is nearly blown away, wondering what kind of freak weather is hitting the set. Gu'an keeps running through the sandstorm, focused only on reaching the cliff. In the sky, the paper planes begin to glow with a strange digital aura. Xinghuo looks out at the ocean, her hair whipping in the gale. She wears a calm, knowing smile that wasn't in the script. Her voice echoes down to the crew, clear as a bell despite the wind. She shouts for them not to worry about her, hoping they can all stay happy in the future. She adds that she wants a partner who can handle adventures and the small joys of life. Gu'an realizes Xinghuo is basically describing her own ideal ending. The director finally calls cut, admitting that while Xinghuo totally went off script, the performance was actually legendary. While our main crew is busy surviving supernatural glitches, some mysterious big shots are playing God from the sidelines. This mysterious lady is literally holding a paper plane, like she's about to launch a tactical strike on the plot. Her maid points out that she wasn't always this helpful and used to hold a different position. Internally, she's probably thinking being a creator is a full-time job. Apparently, she manipulated the wind just to keep the story from becoming a total train wreck. To her, tragedies and reunions just need to feel fitting to be good writing. She tosses the plane into the breeze, letting it soar past the lighthouse. Then now that the gust of wind has fixed the vibe, the story is back on the track everyone expects. Back on the ground, Sumu is busy checking the playback on the camera. Xinghuo is hyped about her off-script performance, but Gu'an is more worried about the logic of the battle they're in. The main mission is done, and now it's up to the subjects to make their own wishes come true. Xinghuo is feeling herself, clearly proud of her acting chops. Director Sihui looks like she hasn't slept since the Stone Age, but she's ready to pull an all-nighter for editing. The crew waves goodbye, promising to meet up for a legendary celebration once the film is finished. Even as they walk away, the group is already planning the after party. Gu'an just wants to go home and hibernate, but Xinghuo is running on pure adrenaline. To the internally Gu'an side, this girl has zero chill. To realizing Xinghuo is probably just coping with a crazy day, Gu'an decides to play along. They end up at a massive mall that's definitely more expensive than Gu'an's budget. That Xinghuo is absolutely losing it over some snacks. She grabs a jello coconut milk that looks delicious to her. Gu'an is just standing there, confused by Xinghuo's sparkling eyes. The problem is, from Gu'an's perspective, the drink literally doesn't exist. The Gu'an looks like she's seen a ghost, or in this case, a lack of one. Xinghuo tries to force a sip on her and ends up knocking the straw right out of the invisible cup. It's a total caught in 4K moment of supernatural awkwardness. Xinghuo keeps pushing and Gu'an finally gives in to the peer pressure. She takes a sip of what should be thin air. Wait, it actually tastes like real jello coconut milk. The cup is real, even if it's playing hide-and-seek with reality. Xinghuo teases her for drinking the whole thing after claiming she didn't want any. They share a laugh, even if the physics of the situation are completely short-circuiting. Suddenly, Xinghuo spots something that makes her eyes light up like a gacha gamer. Gu'an feels like she's babysitting a hyperactive toddler at this point. It's a claw machine featuring merch from a super niche anime called Likyu. Xinghuo points it out, basically demanding a prize, as she begs Gu'an to win it for her, putting Gu'an's gamer skills to the ultimate test. Gu'an takes a moment to lock in. Internally, she thought, one try is all I need. Before Xinghuo can even blink, Gu'an has snatched up a whole armful of plushies. Xinghuo is stunned, convinced Gu'an is some kind of claw machine wizard. Gu'an admits she actually hates these machines because the uncertainty is unsettling. But hey, taking a risk and winning with your own two hands feels pretty nice. She hands over the loot, hoping the plushies don't pull a vanishing act like the drink. Fast forward 2 days and Gu'an is standing outside a fancy house. She meets a woman who's busy watering the plants. But apparently, the girl's parents are off on another trip, which is code for being missing in action. Gu'an realizes the family situation is a bit complicated. The woman admits she subconsciously felt the girl's presence for the last 3 years. It's a heavy conversation about memories and how adults lose the ability to just live in them. They look up at the clear sky, soaking in the vibe. To them, this has been one real fantasy summer. Back at the house, someone is putting on an apron. It's Xinghuo, and she's tying it tight because she's about to enter the cooking boss battle. She's armed with a pan and a spatula, looking ready to cook a 5-star meal or burn the house down. Gu'an tries to help as the assistant chef, but gets immediately shut down. Xinghuo wants all the credit, even if it means the food might be a disaster. The doorbell rings and Xinghuo shoves Gu'an out of the kitchen to play hostess. Gu'an opens the door to find the rest of the crew arriving. Sumiu and the silver-haired boy walk in, looking a little awkward about bumping into each other. The director Sihui arrives last, looking like she just crawled out of an editing cave. Everyone gathers in the living room, waiting for the feast. Sihui asks where the chef is, and Gu'an can only point toward the kitchen. Xinghuo announces that the food is finally ready. She steps out with a big smile, looking like she actually pulled it off. She asks them if the smell is delicious. Gu'an takes one look at the pot and realizes she was right to be worried. It's a massive hot pot filled with luxurious seasoning that looks like a science experiment. Xinghuo hands out the chopsticks, totally oblivious to the danger. Gu'an tries to keep everyone calm, telling them to just taste it for the sake of Xinghuo's hard work. Xinghuo is practically vibrating with excitement. Gu'an tries to grab a piece of seltus, but it's still raw. She awkwardly says she'll just let it boil a bit longer. Hong dives in for the ham, which is the only thing that's actually edible. The rest of the crew looks like they're chewing on wood. Sihui is sweating bullets, trying not to insult the chef. Yuxin literally bursts into tears, and Xinghuo panics, thinking the food is that bad. It turns out, it's just so spicy that it's causing physical pain. Sihui tries to play it off, saying it's actually good if you ignore the spice. Gu'an takes a bite and says it tastes perfect. But then, something weird happens. The taste suddenly changes to actual hot pot. Xinghuo looks down, admitting she's a bit out of practice. Gu'an watches her, realizing the girl is more aware than she lets on. Xinghuo smiles, knowing they're all lying just to make her feel better. Standing in her home with her friends, she realizes she truly loves them all. Xinghuo is busy playing chef, tossing water into the pot to keep the party going as the meal winds down. She cranks up the dial because apparently, supernatural beings don't have time for slow-cooked meals. Gu'an realizes they'd basically be eating raw groceries if Xinghuo wasn't low-key using her powers to fix the vibe. And she even sends a quick text to the group chat to keep everyone calm. The whole crew looks like they've just survived a boss fight at the dinner table, totally drained from the intensity of the supernatural hot pot. Sihui is officially in a food coma, leaning back with a stomach so full it's basically its own planet. Sis-hong looks as elegant as ever, but even she admits that while the food was fire, they can't overdo it with the big awards ceremony coming up. Suddenly, the lights dim and a professional spotlight cuts through the room, signaling that it's time for the main event. Sihui and Hong cozy up on the couch, ready to judge. Yuxin and Sumu are sitting close, looking like they're waiting for the results of a reality TV finale. Gu'an watches the festivities from the sidelines, feeling like a proud parent. But her peace is interrupted when she senses a presence right behind her. Xinghuo sneaks up and wraps Gu'an in a massive hug, catching her completely off guard. Xinghuo is suddenly acting weirdly competitive, whispering that they absolutely cannot lose this ceremony. Internally, Gu'an is short-circuiting, thinking, since when did our supernatural guest become such a tryhard? Sihui takes center stage, bottle in hand, acting as the hype man MC to announce the Best Producer award goes to Sis-hong. Hong stands up and gives a deep, mature speech about how this award is special because it represents staying pure and naive in a world full of greedy adults. Next up, the Best Male Lead award goes to Sumu, who has spent the whole film being the group's prince. Sumu gets real with the group, declaring she's done playing the prince role for the masses and just wants to be one person's knight. Sihui scoffs at how corny that is before announcing Yuxin as the best supporting lead. Yuxin finally finds her backbone, shouting that she's done living in the shadow of her own low self-esteem and is just going to be herself from now on. Sihui ruins the vibe by joking that she still won't buy anything off Yuxin's stream wishlist without a massive discount. But then, Sihui kicks off her hat and shoes, getting hyped for the next category. But to nobody's surprise, she declares herself the best director. Getting a bit emotional, Sihui admits she would have given up a long time ago if someone hadn't literally kicked her into gear. But then the ego returns as she points at the crew and claims she's going to keep writing solo drafts and doesn't need their help anymore. She's ready to ditch them for the new generation of directors, laughing like a cartoon villain. The crew just stares at her like she's lost her mind. Sihui tries to move on to Gu'an's award, but she suddenly freezes mid-sentence. Everyone looks around the room, realizing the vibe just shifted. The realization hits them all at once. Gu'an has vanished. Meanwhile, out under the moonlight, Gu'an is standing alone, reflecting on her mission. She feels like her task is finally done, even though it felt like it was going to fail about a dozen times. She looks over the edge of the bridge, the weight of the summer finally settling on her shoulders. She looks solemn, but there's a flicker of a smile because the results were actually satisfactory. Suddenly, Xinghuo appears out of nowhere, saying she knew exactly where to find her. Gu'an is blindsided by the sudden appearance. Xinghuo tells her that everyone back at the party wanted to give her an award too. But she was too busy playing the ghost and disappearing. Gu'an tries to play it cool, saying she's just a temporary worker who doesn't need any trophies. Xinghuo isn't buying it, insisting that after everything they've been through, the crew sees her as a total equal. Gu'an looks away, admitting she's just too used to being on her own and taking care of herself. The two of them stand together, looking out at the endless starry night. Xinghuo drops some deep metaphors, comparing human interaction to diving. No matter how deep you go, you always have to return to the surface eventually. She talks about how whales used to be land animals that eventually adapted to the ocean, only coming up for air. As she reaches out a hand, and Gu'an wonders if Xinghuo is actually talking about her own existence. The world seems to flip upside down as Gu'an imagines them reaching for each other across different worlds. They start walking along the beach together, the silence becoming heavy. Xinghuo calls out her name softly. Then, she tells Gu, and to make sure she takes some digestion pills later. Gu'an is confused until Xinghuo points out that she ate a ton of raw food today. Internally, Gu'an is dying of embarrassment. She thought she'd perfectly completed the task, but she was basically caught in 4K eating uncooked meat. It turns out Xinghuo was never fooled for a second. The narrator reveals the truth. Xinghuo knew everything from the very start. Flashback to the beginning of their journey. Xinghuo was already fully aware of the situation. Was it when she passed out during the confrontation with the director? Or was it back when they were playing table tennis, and she couldn't even return a serve? Xinghuo reflects on her own existence, floating in a bubble of static in the middle of a crowded city. She knows she shouldn't even exist in this world. Her presence is a literal glitch in reality. She's nothing but digital noise and static. She realizes the problem isn't the world, it's her. Back on the beach, they finally hold hands. Gu'an leads her along the shore, a steady anchor in Xinghuo's chaotic reality. Xinghuo thinks about how soft and warm Gu'an's skills compared to her own. She tells Gu'an that she's the only one who can truly touch her. Gu'an is shocked, asking if the others were just playing along the whole time. Xinghuo laughs, saying their acting was actually terrible and full of flaws. She clowns on the director for not being able to tell left from right, and Sis-hong for acting like a vague psychic. Xinghuo brags that she's actually the best actress for pretending she didn't know they were pretending. She points a finger at Gu'an, teasing her. Yeah. Everything until now has just been one big performance. Xinghuo admits that she's been the one taking care of them, acting like the Xinghuo they expected to see. They stop by the water's edge. Xinghuo calls Gu'an a junior, which makes Gu'an look up in surprise, and Gu'an wonders why she was the one chosen for this. Was it the magical camera, or something deeper? Their footsteps match perfectly in the sand. But all of this happened just for one evening encounter. Xinghuo admits it's scary to think what would have happened if anyone else had found her. Gu'an jokes that anyone else would have just been terrified of a supernatural event. They get close enough to feel each other's breath. Gu'an admits she could feel Xinghuo's unusual obsession. Xinghuo didn't understand why Gu'an was so desperate to finish the godly film before she disappeared. She watched as Gu'an helped the runaway director. She saw her help Hong and fix the drama between Sumu and Yuxin. Xinghuo realizes that Gu'an is actually the most complicated person of them all. She points out that Sihui would have deleted her work without a push. Hong never would have known how much the other girls looked up to her. Yuxin would still be hiding in her own shadow. And Sumu would still be trapped in the prince persona instead of just being a normal girl. And Xinghuo feels like Gu'an forced them all to join her fight. But Gu'an is never the one to actually start the fire. Xinghuo describes herself as a shooting star that's been lingering in the sky for too long. She was unwilling to fall. She wanted to carry the weight of everyone's wishes. Xinghuo wonders if she was too greedy, taking on a mission she couldn't finish alone. Gu'an realizes that she was the one who ended up being taken care of by the subject she was supposed to be managing. Xinghuo smiles, saying she's just happy to have experienced a summer like this again. Thank you. To Gu'an, the scene cuts to Gu'an standing completely alone on the dark beach. The weight of the goodbye finally hits her, and she sinks to her knees in the sand, as she thought she had prepared herself for this moment. But after hearing everything Xinghuo had to say, the reality is unbearable, as she grips the sand as the first tears fall. Internally, she cries out to her mother, realizing that she never warned her that a goodbye could hurt this much. The search party is officially panicking because their star girl has pulled a vanishing act, leaving the crew absolutely blindsided. Even after scouting the entire area, the vibes are looking pretty grim. The seawall is a total ghost town, confirming that Xinghuo didn't just walk away, she basically unsubscribed from existence. The calls are going through, but nobody is picking up, leaving the team getting ghosted by the one person they need. Gu'an is currently going through it, slumped over on the beach like she's just given up on the main quest. Her phone is blowing up with calls from the director, but she's too busy drowning in her own feels to even glance at the screen. Looking at the sky, it feels like the finale of a story that was destined to be a tragedy from the very first chapter. She wonders how many people would actually keep reading a story where the ending is just pain. Unlike the audience on the outside, those trapped in the plot don't get to skip the sad parts, even if they manage to smile a few times along the way. Internally, she wondered, what was she actually thinking when she left me behind? Gu'an is literally down bad, clutching the sand as her mental health hits rock bottom. She's beating herself up over the things she said, wishing she could just hit the undo button on their last conversation. The waterworks are in full effect as she realizes her world just turned grayscale. She screams into the void, asking why Xinghuo even bothered to appear if she was just going to leave her like this. Her composure is officially broken as she lets out a gut-wrenching sob. Kneeling in the sand, she feels like a total clown for thinking things would end differently. To her, it's the ultimate betrayal to have someone show up, fix everyone else's life, and then just vanish. She cries out that everyone else got their wish, but she's left with nothing but a broken heart. She regrets trying to act all mature and cool, instead of just being honest. Internally, she wailed, I shouldn't have pretended I'd be fine on my own. She's a complete mess, unable to imagine going back to her boring, pre-Xinghuo life. But just as she's about to lose it, something catches her eye. A tarot card is washing up on the shore, looking like a literal sign from the universe. It's a total throwback to a conversation she once had about the supernatural. She remembers being told that her logic was a total buzzkill for her actual feelings. If she could just be real with herself, maybe the world would actually throw her a bone. Once those feelings are formalized, the universe is supposed to hit back with a response. And right now, the story is finally responding. Here, the card is the star, representing hope and a future that isn't totally cooked. It promises bright prospects and a wonderful love that satisfies both partners. The dark clouds of the night finally start to clear. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls her a junior, which is a total power move. Gu'an looks up, her eyes wide as she sees a silhouette against the night sky. She's still got tears streaming down her face, looking like she's seen a ghost. The mysterious figure tells her she never lets anyone rest easy. As a shooting star streaks across the sky, it's clear the tragedy has been officially cancelled. Fast forward to the future, and Gu'an has set up shop at Meteor Studio. The office is a total vibe, filled with gear and memories of their wild journey. She's traded the director's chair for a camera, focusing on capturing the moments that matter. Her computer is busy loading the next big project. She picks up a photo of a swing on the beach, a reminder of where it all almost ended. To walking through her studio, she looks like a professional who's finally found her groove. She pins the beach photo to her wall of memories, completing the collection. The sunset in the photo looks just as vibrant as the day it was taken. The other shots show peaceful park benches and sunny days. It's a complete 180 from the dark beach where she almost gave up. Tab. A visitor knocks on the door, asking if this is the Seeing Again office. Gu'an is busy checking her board when she realizes she has company. It's Guju, her legal guardian, who's looking sharp and ready to talk business. Gu'an doesn't have time for small talk and tells her to get straight to the point. The tea is served, and the atmosphere is surprisingly chill for a business meeting. Guju mentions she's heard that Gu'an is doing more than just taking pretty pictures. Gu'an realizes her assistant's lips are as loose as ever, leaking all her secrets. It turns out Gu'an has been acting like a low-key detective, even searching for lost cats in vents. She's been catching blackmailers and solving cases like a total pro. Guju thinks what she's doing is actually meaningful since the iron fist of justice can't be everywhere. She notes that Gu'an's motivation is totally different this time around. Gu'an looks at her, her eyes showing a depth that wasn't there before. She admits that people change, and she's definitely not the same person she used to be. Guju hands over a new file, hoping it'll make Gu'an happy. Gu'an check the evidence, making sure this isn't just some weird internet urban legend. Guju explains they can't investigate this one directly, so they need an outside specialist. She says Gu'an is the only one she can ask for help. Then she corrects herself with a smirk. She says Gu'an and her partner are the only two for the job. On the wall, photos of Xinghuo smiling prove the duo is very much back in business. Outside at a beautiful school, Gu'an is picking up some snacks. She's got a strawberry and a vanilla ice cream cone ready to go. She walks through the campus, looking like a student herself in her stylish fit. She spots her partner waiting under the trees. She offers the strawberry flavor to the girl waiting for her. Xinghuo takes a bite and has a total foodgasm over the signature taste. She's glowing, looking happier than ever in her school uniform. They sit together on a bench, holding hands like the ultimate power couple. Xinghuo gets all sentimental about the place, but Gu'an is just there to tease her. Gu'an reminds her about the time they swapped roles in the clock tower. Xinghuo gets all flustered, telling her not to lead the kids astray in public. Gu'an reminds her that since she made her cry so much that night, she's basically going to be paying for it for her entire life. Xinghuo immediately starts screaming for her mother-in-law to save her from this menace. But the playtime ends when Xinghuo spots their targets. She points out two girls nearby, realizing they've found the ones from the mission. The two girls are hanging out by a tree, completely unaware they're being watched. With the new case in their sights, the legendary duo is ready to start a new chapter under the old clock tower.